Live from Chickies and Pete's in Egg Harbor Township, the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and live video streaming on the X platform and on YouTube at Mike Gill Show. What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Mike Gill. Pete G is my on-site producer, and Josh Henning is back in the Ocean Casino Resort studios. Well, big show today. We are jam-packed. Brian Baldinger will join me in about 30 minutes from now. Baldy's breakdown on the issues that he sees from the Eagles. He's going to be on the national radio call of the Eagles and the Vikings this weekend. So Baldy at 2:30 today, 3 o'clock hour, devoted to the Phillies today. Rob Thomson spoke, as did Dave Dombrowski. Over about an hour's worth of audio that we are cutting into two segments. You'll hear from Dave Dombrowski at 3, and we'll hear from Rob Thomson at right around 3:35 today. Dombrowski spoke for almost an hour today, and Topper spoke for about 40 minutes today. So you had over an hour worth of answers and questions on the Phillies. Here's some major takeaways. One, the indication that I got, and everybody can chime in, 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. The indication that I got was that Dave Dombrowski's intentions are to run it back. That was the indication that I got, was the top priority is to bring back Kyle Schwarber. That was number one. Number two, they want to try to bring back JT Realmuto. I definitely think that the theme was, we think we were good enough that we played against the Dodgers and they have really good pitching, and that their really good pitching was why we lost. Not because we're not good enough or we can't hit. It's that team's pitching is really, really good, and there's not a whole heck of a lot you can do to combat that. Like, you can't say, hey, we're going to go get this guy, or this guy, and that's going to change the fact that Blake Snell, Yoshi Yamamoto, Shohei Ohtani, and Tyler Glasnow are really, really good pitchers. So the main takeaway that I got was the intentions are to run it back. Number two, he mentioned, and we already knew Rob Thomson was coming back, but he also added the caveat that they're trying to extend Topper into 2027 as well. So not only does he want Topper back for 2026, he would like to give him an extension for another year after that. He also mentioned that the entire coaching staff is returning. Kevin Long will be the hitting coach. Caleb Cotham will be the pitching coach. And everybody else will be back. Your boy Paco Figueroa, he's back as the first base.
Yeah, I got that indication as well.
Right, you got Paco Figueroa. He's going to be back. You also have
Dusty
Watson. He will be back. They're also going to be adding a bench coach that Topper says he will have some input on, in terms of they want to get a guy who's a veteran, who has possibly been a manager in the past, that can sit on the bench and be the bench coach along with Rob Thomson. So that is something. Other than that, the theme today was really that they want to run this thing back, right? I mean, is that I'm speaking by myself here. Pete and Josh, you guys both heard it. Did you guys also, was your takeaway also what my takeaway is, that they're bullish on this ball club. They think that this club, as Dave Dombrowski puts it, the club that he mentioned multiple teams. He talked about the Atlanta Braves, how they had the same core group of guys, and that they made the playoffs 14 years and they won one World Series, but that they kept getting there and they kept getting there and they kept getting there. He talked about this Dodgers core, that they've run the same core for the most part, with Mookie Betts. They had it Shohei Ohtani last year. They finally won the World Series. They have Freddie Freeman. They've got Muncy. They got Kike Hernandez. I mean, they got a lot of guys who have been there for a while, too, and they kept getting to the playoffs and not winning. And then, of course, they got Shohei Ohtani, and that kind of put them over the top there, although Ohtani's not doing much in these playoffs offensively for him. But he kept giving indications of teams in the past that kept their cores together, and that keeping their core together allowed them to make the playoffs. And then the indication really was, once you make the playoff, that it's really a crapshoot. So I'm really interested to see what everybody's thoughts were on. Now, if you did not hear Dave Dombrowski, we will play most of that press conference. We're kind of taking out some of the audio that was, more related to some fluffy things, but more of the stuff. He did mention that, the future for Zach Wheeler, they think that he'll be back sometime in May. That he
End
won't,
of May, right?
Right,
yeah.
that he won't be ready for the start of the season. If I go around, Bryson Stott, I thought was an interesting one. Topper seemed to indicate that he thinks that Bryson Stott's an everyday player, to which Nuggets texted me and said, well, then why don't you play him every day? To which my answer was, he probably wants to play him every day, and he's being told he can't play him every day, because Topper was pretty clear that he thinks Stott is capable of hitting left-handed pitching.
If he plays every day and sees it enough, right.
And he said, we gave him some chances against lefties later on in the year, and he thought the adjustments that he made with his hands allowed him to hit much better against lefties. So the indication I got was Topper wants to play Stott every day. One of the things that Dombrowski said that I thought was interesting, he did admit that the outfield was weak and it needs some help. But he did say our infield's intact. He was asked about Bryce Harper. He does not sound like he wants to move Bryce Harper off for first base, and that it's not really even been discussed. Second base, shortstop, and third base. He said that the infield's intact. Now, that doesn't mean he can't go back on his word and go make a trade.
Which means Alec Boehm is going to return.
That was the big thing to me,
yeah.
is the fact that he said the infield is intact, which means it sounded as if Bryson Stott and Alec Boehm would both be back. He did talk about Aiden Miller, and he spoke pretty glowingly about Miller and the thought that he could play anywhere, that he was very versatile. He said he could hit. That his speed was actually better than he thought. He couldn't believe he stole 50-plus bases.
But he has to play every day.
But that's the point, that he would not platoon with Bryson Stott and play second base, because if he's up here to play every day. The outfield, he mentioned and was asked about Justin Crawford. The one question I wanted to hear about Crawford that wasn't asked was, why wasn't Crawford considered this year? Then if all this stuff, why not this year for Crawford? Why wasn't he ready? Because he mentioned he hit 340. He's done everything we've asked at the minor league level. Why did we, why wasn't he up here this year? But he did mention that Crawford, they do anticipate that him being ready for the start of spring training and possibly being the left fielder. The Castellanos stuff, Dombrowski did admit that he had to get involved.
He's as good as gone, in my opinion.
Well, Topper was asked about the relationship. He says, I think the relationship's good.
I don't hold any grudges.
I don't hold grudges.
Which to me, it means that
there was definitely
I'm not
something there.
going to hold a grudge when he's on another team.
There is definitely something there, because they asked Dombrowski, did he need to get involved with this? And he said that he did have to get involved. The JT stuff, he was non-committal on JT. Yes, they would like to bring him back, but he didn't definitively say that's a priority like he did for Kyle Schwarber.
Mike, if I could just jump in real quick. I think the JT topic and the Stott topic are two examples of where, at least for me, listening to it and re-listening to Thomson and Dombrowski, that the manager and the baseball president are not on the same page. Because
when it comes to who?
JT, definitely.
Because Thomson made it sound like JT is like the most essential human being on the planet, and Dombrowski made it sound like he's just another guy on the list of things that they need to make a decision about.
Yeah, I kind of got the feeling there was some mixed. I didn't come out of that and say I have a good feeling on their takeaway on where I feel like they're going to do with JT. Because the manager's around him all the time and probably says, look, I trust this guy. I don't know that I can go to the other guy. Whereas the front office guy is just looking at the analytics and the numbers and suggesting we might have to move on if the money doesn't line up.
Like JT is a perfect example, too, because that guy plays every day. And last year, the talk was we got to give JT a break. We can't play him every day. That didn't happen. I think he played more than any other player on the team.
Well, we keep saying that every year, that you got to stop playing him every single day. You got to, take the foot off the gas with him a little bit.
They didn't do that.
And they didn't do that. Although I will say he was better in the second half of the year than he was in the first half of the year. So, for that being said, I do think that they have used him way too much during his tenure here. So
Topper uses him, right?
Well, we talked about this the other day, that who was on with us? Was it Frank on Tuesday or maybe McGarry on Monday when we were talking about that? We keep saying every year that you got to play him less, and the problem is JT doesn't want to play less. So it's like, does he fight it?
Right.
Does he say, I don't want to play less, I don't want to play less, you got to put me in? You know, like, that's another thing. And maybe the front office is saying, we don't want him to dictate to us how much he's going to play and how much he's not going to play, especially at age 35, 36, 37 years old.
And the guy behind him, Marshawn, I mean, he could really only show up to the ballpark every Sunday. And he would get it. That's it.
If he was lucky. So a couple things. And you guys can filter in and kind of, if I'm missing some things here that stood out to you. But number one, I think some people were wondering about Kevin Long. That wasn't even a discussion, it didn't sound like.
Yeah,
right?
so it was really weird because Dombrowski had this whole soliloquy that we're not going to air because it's a waste of everybody's time. He had this whole soliloquy about how, like, oh, well, you know, coaching. And then finally one of the reporters stepped up and said, well, what about Kevin Long? And Dombrowski's like, well, Long has nothing to do with hitting a 100-mile fastball.
Well, yeah, and he went on about how Kevin Long, the team is got the batting champion, the home run champion, the RBI champion, that he thinks the team is one of the top offenses in the league. Why would I get rid of the coach who's
Which
responsible
is all true.
for that?
I mean,
and he's saying
those numbers are true.
And his point was, you guys are saying how good their pitching is. You think that the hitting coach is going to help us make these guys any worse pitchers?
Yeah,
you know,
and he said multiple times. I had a buddy of mine texting me because he was watching the same presser. He was saying it's funny how Dombrowski keeps bringing up how hard it is to hit a 100-mile fastball.
Dombrowski was very bullish on how good their pitching was, and that was why they felt that the difference, you know, he's like, we have really good pitching, they have really good pitching. Their pitching was so good that it made us look bad.
Blake Snell was like Randy Johnson, you know?
Well, for the most part, he was.
And he has been. And
was.
Even against Milwaukee.
For those of you who never saw Randy Johnson pitch, that's basically what it was like. He would throw 8 innings and strike out double-digit guys every single time he pitched. So the entire coaching staff returning, and it basically was Kevin Long. I think most fans were wondering, because I don't think anybody had a problem with Caleb Cotham, who no,
I want to keep that guy around for years.
Yeah, I mean, he runs the pitching department. He runs the pitching staff. So that – I guess you can say that Crawford and maybe Aiden Miller and Andrew Painter will be a part. Now, Crawford definitively, Painter most likely.
Right. They said that they're basically said they're not bringing Kepler back because they expect Crawford to be here.
Right, and he did say that, and even Aiden Miller he thinks could help out this season coming up. Now,
but he also was very, very, very upfront, Dombrowski, that Aiden Miller is an everyday player, that he is not coming up here for a part-time role.
Yeah, that was definitive, that he's not going to be a platoon player. If he's up here, it's to play every single day. The other thing was, I think it's unlikely that Ranger Suárez is back.
Yeah, they didn't really talk too much about him.
However, I will throw this little wrinkle out there for everybody. The way they talked about pitching and how good the pitching was from the Dodgers, wouldn't that indication be we can't let Ranger Suárez walk if pitching is that important?
Right. But the math just doesn't work.
Yeah, because he also said Dombrowski said also near the end of the presser how happy they were with Luzardo and how they're excited he's under contract for one more year. So,
well, our buddy Hembo put out a video. He tagged me in, and the video, the gist of it was to offer Luzardo 80 cents on the dollar to see if you can lock him up early. And if he says he doesn't want that deal, to try to trade Luzardo and then shift that money to go after Ranger Suárez and use Luzardo to try to get a bat.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way to look at it. That's a lot of moving parts, though, I would think, rather than just letting Ranger walk.
Right, Luzardo signed for another year, so you go to him and say, hey, we want to give you an extension, but you offer him 80 cents on the dollar. So you try to give him an extension, but you try to lowball him a little bit, see if he balks, and if he says, no, I don't want that deal, then you move on from him and utilize him to try to get some offense in here and then make Ranger Suárez the offer that maybe you would have made to Jesus Luzardo. I mean, that's one way to look at it there. It doesn't sound like it's a guarantee that Harrison Bader's back. He did kind of go into this whole thing about, how the series would have been different if Bader played. You guys are kind of judging us on Bader not being here, Wheeler not being here, and you're saying we're not good enough. but two main guys for our team were not a part of that series, and in a series that could have gone either way.
And that was
he
part
was
of
pretty insistent that, they thought that this series was, he mentioned it, if you throw the ball to one side of the plate as opposed to the other side of the plate, that's a difference right there. And he talked about not having Bader, how that would have changed things in certain situations. He mentioned the 4-3 game.
And he mentioned Rojas, how he was hurt.
He did mention
He
Rojas.
would have been up with the team.
He did acknowledge that Rojas would have been up with the team, and then he could have pinch ran, and then maybe things would have been different in that situation.
Yeah, and he
those are all
also
excuses.
Well, it's not. I don't know if it's excuses, but I think it's the fact that this organization looks at it way differently than the rest of us do. Whereas they look at it as, and Dombrowski, let's be fair, was very condescending a couple points during the 53 minutes that he talked today.
He had a nice blazer on, I'll tell you that.
Well, I could care less about the blazer. I care about what he said, which is the reality is that they think for whatever reason that they say, well, we didn't have Rojas, we didn't have Wheeler, Bader was hurt, so that means that we would have been better and we could have won.
Those are excuses.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You see it as an excuse. They see it as mitigating circumstances.
Well, they're seeing it as maybe not an excuse, but a reason to run it back. Like,
which
in other
is
words,
what the fans don't want to hear.
Right. The fans are saying you can't do the same thing, and they're saying, well, wait a second. The core of our group is fine. It's the guys who are like the other guys that –
But are they – is the core – really fine?
Well, like they kept saying, look, we won 96 games. We're a good club.
That's the balance. I forget who asked that question, but the question was the balance of winning 96 games in the regular season but falling short in the postseason. How do you
I like
construct
McGarry's
your
question,
roster?
by the way. McGarry asked the question that was basically like, how do you find Kike Hernandez?
Right.
Like that was what I think he was getting at.
He
And
was
in fact,
trying to, and Dave Dombrowski gave him the most useless answer in the world.
Yes, I hope you cut that one out because
I did.
I think what he was saying, McGarry, was a fair question. Like, how do you identify a guy who
Correct.
maybe isn't the player during the regular season that
Right.
he is in the playoffs? And Kike Hernandez, who I believe is a free agent, by the way. The
yes.
problem with Kike Hernandez, he's like 37 years old.
Yeah, he's 36 years old. Mike McGarry, he asked the right question. And then Dombrowski basically tried to give an answer
Dombrowski
that delegitimized the question.
But Dombrowski did mention Kike Hernandez by name. He did say, like,
He did.
Pierce.
He mentioned Steve Pierce.
Right, he
was
also
the
mentioned
guy.
Steve Pierce. But he also mentioned Steve Pierce in a very, and again, I'm going to use the word condescending way, where he was like, well, we weren't fully sure that Stephen Pierce was going to be what he was until he did it. And he goes, we don't always know who these guys are going to be until they get to the postseason. It's like, thanks, Dave.
Which is true, though. I mean, you can't identify Kike Hernandez.
Right.
But they don't fall off trees.
Right. It's hard to say we're going to build our whole – because I will say this about Dombrowski. He has written the checks that have worked out. Schwarber, Harper. Well, Harper he didn't even sign. That was when Clintack was here. But Castellanos don't like that deal now, hindsight, right? But at the time you were saying good deal, and he's helped this team out at times.
But he's also brought in Taijuan Walker. Terrible contract.
Trey Turner's deal, I don't love it, but he's been and he actually said, we don't need Trey Turner to hit any more home runs. We love what he's given. But I will say this, one thing that Dombrowski has not done or been able to do in his entire tenure here is to find that role-playing player. He went out and got Whit Merrifield. That didn't work.
Correct.
He's gone out and got, last year, Joe Ross. That didn't work. All these guys that he has gotten on like the team-friendly deal, the one-year deal, none of those guys have really worked out. The Max Kepler, he gave that guy $10 million. That didn't really work out. Joe Ross, that didn't work out. There's a lot of examples of guys that he has brought in here on like smaller deals, not the big-time deals, that they have not worked out. Like he is not really – now he did make the trade to get Edmundo Sosa. That's been a good deal for them.
He had to trade Cody Clemens. That's a guy that you could have seen as a role player in the postseason.
Possible. Jose Alvarado, I would say it's 50-50 on whether he'd be back. I mean, Thomson said that I feel like listening to Thomson, he would want Alvarado back. I think listening to Dombrowski, he felt let down by the guy and doesn't know if he can trust him.
Which is
How about the whole
understandable.
thing with Matt Strom? I didn't hear this at the time, but I guess Strom had said that they didn't work on PFPs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which Dombrowski and Rob Thompson both shot down pretty.
Dombrowski actually said the team worked on him. He did not.
Right. And
So it was almost like, how dare you, dude? Like, you didn't participate.
What, did Kirkring work on him?
Well, I thought, and that's where Rob Thomson, I think Rob was trying everything he could to defend his guy because he was trying not to let all the arrows go to Kirkering.
Well, what he did say was, no matter what, I can't simulate that play. So I don't know what the hell Strom's trying to say.
Exactly.
I can't put 55,000 people in the stands in the bottom of the 11th inning with 2 outs in a 1-1 game.
And tell the guy to
and
kick
then
the
tell
ball.
the guy bobble the ball
Right.
and then decide what you're going to do with it. Like, he's like, I don't know how you think a PFP on a mound in Clearwater, Florida in February was going to simulate that. Now, that being said, I think they have a real issue deciding what to do with Kirkring, where I think, look, Kirkring doesn't make any money, and he's got a great arm. I think he's going to have to be back here.
Yeah, I think so too. And you just hope that he gets through whatever he's dealing with now. They said they're going to support him in any which way they can. But you're right. He's got great stuff. He's a young guy. He's cheap.
Yeah,
He's
the
come
cheap
up
part.
here.
The cheap part helps. The stuff on Bryce Harper, some people are kind of reading this as like, Bryce should have taken some. Topper said he thinks that Harper is going to come back and have the best year that he ever had because he feels like he didn't have a great year. Dombrowski basically said, was it an elite year? No, but it was a very good player.
He did compare him to Freddie Freeman, which I think is probably on point, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if Bryce Harper turns into Freddie Freeman on the downtrot of his career, Freddie Freeman's still hitting homers in the playoffs.
Right, Freddie Freeman's not elite, but he's still a player that when he comes to the plate, you're leery of that he's up to bat.
Right.
And Thomson did say that he thinks the lineup is too lefty. He did add that little jab. Hey, guys, I'm a little left-handed. Can you help me out with that one? There's a lot there. 3 o'clock, you'll hear the full Dombrowski, and then at around 3:35, you'll hear the Rob Thomson. So stick around. By the way, 609-403-0973. That's the text board. You can jump on board. 609-403-0973. Today's stay or go is Ranger Suárez. Each day we have a stay or go. Today's Ranger Suárez, and as you would imagine, so far the votes are coming in 67% stay, 32% go for Ranger Suárez. Most of the players, by the way, that we've asked on the stay or go, almost every single one, people have wanted to stay.
So let's run it back.
Everybody wants to run it back, it sounds like. We're live at Chickies and Pete's, Egg Harbor Township. Go where the players go. Don't forget the wings, the A.J. Brown Sweet Heat Hot Wings. They have them here. The Garage 62, Jason Kelsey Beer. They have it here. We're live till 6 o'clock tonight. Hey, stop on out. You got Thursday Night Football tonight. It's a good game, Pittsburgh and Bengals. We got the MLB playoffs continuing. Would have been a Phillies game tonight. More of that, and the Flyers are in action tonight. Hello, Flyers.
Yeah, they got some stuff going on with that team.
More Sports Bash live from Chickies and Pete's in Egg Harbor Township. We're at the EHT at Chickies and Pete's today, 97.3 ESPN. Back here at Chickies and Pete's, Egg Harbor Township. Holy mackerel. We are blazing through the football season. 7 weeks in, this Thursday night football tonight, Steelers and Bengals. Listen to the game on 97.3 ESPN. Flyers and Jets, that'll be over on our sister station, Rock 104.1 and the Rock 104.1 free mobile app. Brian Baldinger from NFL Network Compass Media going to join us in a couple moments here. We'll get his thoughts on the issues. If everybody saw who follows issues? Baldy.
Vibes are good, right? No problems here.
Vibes are always good, right?
Yeah, nice meeting this week.
Gentleman at the bar came over to us, said hello. And, of course, Philly's got all their stuff going on. And he says, what's going on with the Eagles? That was his main concern. What's going on with the Eagles?
Well, the offense figured it out, right?
We'll find out. This is not the best team to try to find out. By the way, Brian Baldinger will cover the game for Compass Media. He'll have the national radio call, and he always has the Baldy's breakdowns. They're always awesome, and, of course, we check them out. And when we saw the Baldy's breakdowns and we saw that he's calling the Eagles game this week, we got to get him back on to talk about everything that everybody wants to know. Baldy, what is wrong with the Eagles? We're at Chickies and Pete's in Egg Harbor Township. This fine gentleman walked over. Doesn't care about the Phillies press conferences, the Phillies. He wants to know what's wrong with the Eagles. And you broke down some stuff about this team, Baldy. You're getting ready to see them play the Vikings this week. But what you're seeing on tape and your breakdowns about this team, let's start on the offense first. What is alarming to you, if alarming's the right word?
Oh, it's alarming. I mean, they're not running the football anywhere near as well as they ran a year ago. And that's a little perplexing because it's pretty much the same guys outside of the right guard. But they're not getting the same level of movement. They're not getting the same commitment to the run game that they once had a year ago when they ran for over 3,000 yards as a team. And you just kind of break it down. Like Saquon's got 95 runs so far, and 40% of those runs have gone for a yard or less. And so, if you are losing yards on 1st and 10 or gaining a yard on 2nd and 10, it's kind of hard to dial up another run. And now you're starting to throw it more than you probably want to, and they haven't been particularly good on that side of the ball, throwing it with any sort of consistency right now, outside of, one quarter against the Rams when they were down 26-7 and had to throw it. So, I mean, those are some of the issues right now on offense is the ability to run it consistently and get Saquon going. His longest run is 18 yards. Last year he had 7 runs of 60 yards or more. So like we're not getting the long runs or the big runs or the explosive runs at all in any part of the run game.
How much, Baldy? Obviously, you made your money as an offensive lineman in there, mucking and grinding in the interior. How much is it? Yes, there's one change on the offensive line, but how much is it the fact that some of these guys are beat up and it's just been guys in and out? Dickerson's in, Dickerson's out. Juergens maybe doesn't look the same. Heck, even Tyler Steen, who's done a nice job, but he's going out. He's, Matt Pryor's going in. How much is it the lack of consistency of that offensive line that is causing a lot of the problems?
Well, they had those issues last year. Lane missed a game and Malata was out. Fred Johnson was in. They had some of that same stuff a year ago. It's never an excuse. The Cowboys won a game and scored 40 2 weeks ago, and they had 4 backup offensive linemen in. They're not getting good movement. Some of the runs they were successful at last year, whether it was counter tray or power, they're not getting the same movement up front. I would say they do miss Mekhi Becton a great deal. Mekhi was really good at the point at getting the line of scrimmage moved, whether it was on the backside or the front side. And so, but they kind of knew that they weren't going to have that kind of size and power inside. And I don't want to slight Tyler Steen because he's a good young player. But, as a group, they just have not been moving the line of scrimmage, and they really haven't expanded the run game very much and the type of runs that are out there. With the athletic ability that Malata and Lane Johnson have, you would think that they'd get those guys to the perimeter on toss cracks and toss sweeps and some of those kind of runs. And I would think that might be a good way to kind of crease Minnesota this weekend.
Going to say you'll be on the call for Compass Media Network's coverage of this game, and this isn't a hand-picked defense, right? You wouldn't say, hey, you know what? You know how we get this offense going? Let's go play Minnesota. What challenges do the Vikings bring in terms of what the Eagles have been struggling with and how difficult it will be to kind of fix themselves against this Viking defense?
Well, they give you, I mean, Brian Flores has been at the forefront of this style of defense that's the whole league is sort of taken, where they're putting 6 and 7 guys up at the line of scrimmage, and it's up to you to discern whether they're all coming, who's dropping, where they're dropping, what they're trying to take away, what down they're doing it on, because it's more than just third down. And if they are all coming, do we have the answer to a blitz zero if they go that way? And so they really challenge you from a protection standpoint and from just a blocking scheme. And then they have a lot of really interchangeable parts. Josh Metellus plays about 4 or 5 different positions. So does Andrew Van Ginkel. You're not really sure sometimes, where Jonathan, where number 58 is going to line up right now. So Jonathan Grenard. They've got a lot of variations, and then sometimes you don't know what coverage they're going to be in until the ball's snapped. And so whether it's a zone, whether it's man-to-man, whether it's half zone, like they really keep you guessing until the ball is snapped, and that creates a lot of indecision in opposing offenses.
Baldy, one of the things that we keep hearing this week when you look at the Eagles' offense, we talked about their offensive line, but the word predictability. You had a Baldy's breakdown where their offense is essentially running a lot of the same concepts multiple times over. When you watch them, are they very predictable? And is that a lot of the problem, the play calling and the play design?
I think it is some of the problem. I'm not saying like, I could be, I don't know, Ivan Pace Jr. on Sunday and call out the play that the Eagles are running, or Harrison Smith and call out the play. I don't think that's happening. But there is some simplicity to what they're doing to becoming more efficient. And when you if you simplify things too much in this league, it can look awfully predictable. And I think some of that is going on. But ultimately, it comes down to production, and it does come down to personnel. And, do they have the right personnel to run certain plays? And what plays do they run best? And can we double those plays up or come back to them if they have success? For example, against the Giants, they ran a little weak side toss on the first play of the game against the Giants, and they ran it for 18 yards. And they never ran it again the rest of the day. Why wouldn't they double that play up, and come back to it? So, sometimes you don't mind being predictable if you're really productive. And you can run. And last year, they ran a lot of the same plays over and over again, but they ran them really, really well, even if the defense knew they were coming. So, it can be a double-edged sword. It can work against you if it's real predictable and just sitting on these routes. And that's what teams are doing. They're just playing these zone defenses and sitting on top of the Eagles, and they're kind of matching them up. And, there's not a lot of separation because they're just kind of like playing like these matchup zones, and the quarterback doesn't want to throw it when there's tight coverage like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I watched your breakdown, and they ran the same play on third down 3 times. And the one thing I said is they run the same play, but it appears that guys are open on some of these plays. Are you seeing that as well, that guys, they might run the same play? Maybe they are predictable, but some of these plays could work if executed.
I agree with that. I agree. Like, the passing game, I play with Randall Cunningham, but I love Randall. But Randall generally threw it to Fred Barnett or Calvin Williams only when they were open and coming, and he could see that he rarely threw the ball with any anticipation of where they're going to be or throwing guys open. And that's what Jalen is not really doing right now. Occasionally, on a deep ball, he will lay it out there, but he's not really throwing the ball with anticipation of where AJ or Devontae is going to be. And he just, I feel, I could be wrong. I mean, I haven't talked to Jalen about this, so this is just my opinion. But I feel like he kind of lives in fear of making a mistake. And he only has thrown 1 interception this year, which is his credit. But I don't think you can live in fear of turning the ball over. It's going to happen. The best quarterbacks in the league turn it over and throw it into coverage. But I think the number of big plays you can make to these receivers is going to outweigh any mistakes you make.
Baldy, let's flip over to the Eagle defense because they were kind of carrying this team and a lot of trust in them. Fourth quarter, Denver, last week, I mean, they got pushed around. It looked like Cam Scadaboo was having fun just lowering his shoulder, driving through Eagle defenders. When you're getting ready for this Minnesota offense that you'll call on Sunday, what are some of the things about the Eagle defense that has started to struggle in the last 5 quarters?
Well, they've really struggled, in pass rush and on the defensive line. I mean, if you just look at last week's game against the Giants, the starting defensive line in the Super Bowl isn't out there. Josh Sweat, Milton Williams moved on. Jalen Carter was hurt. Nolan Smith is hurt. So it's not the same defense as a year ago, starting up front. Zadarius Smith is probably their best pass rusher right now. He just retired. So pass rush has been a problem. And Jalen Carter has not played well when he has played. And he needs to start looking like Jalen Carter, like real soon. I know he's had a bad heel. He's dealt with a bad shoulder. He's been suspended for a game. But he has not looked like the player that we're used to seeing over the last 2 years. So we'll see if a dormant Jalen Carter can wake up. Jalen Hunt is a guy that sort of looked like like he was pointing in the right direction, but he's kind of flatlined and has not made many plays. And so then you get to the secondary, you lose Quinion during the game. They already had problems at left corner, and so they've got question marks at corner right now. There's no question about it. I've seen Cooper DeJean go outside and play outside corner because they had to put him outside when, they really want to leave him at the slot position because he's really good there. So they've got some weaknesses that we didn't see a year ago.
Baldy will get you out on this. When you look at this matchup, and you've been studying, you got Carson Wentz, looks like he might go. J.J. McCarthy's been out with that ankle. Minnesota, not a high-powered offense, but Justin Jefferson against possibly this Eagles secondary. Is there a big factor in this game that you're looking for on Sunday?
Well, it's just that. I mean, the receivers are game breakers in Minnesota. Whether it's Jefferson, whether it's Jordan Addison or Jalen Naylor who runs in the 4-3s, any of those guys, the design of the offense of Kevin O'Connell, it is, if you're not pressuring, whether it's Carson or JJ, and you let those guys sit back, they're gonna make some good throws. Like, they're that good. And so I'm anxious to see what the answer to the receiving core of Minnesota is. They're never going to get too far away from the run, whether it's Jordan Mason or Aaron Jones or a combination. They're both very, very good. But the receivers are game breakers in Minnesota. So I'm anxious to see how Philadelphia matches up against them.
It's Eagles and the Vikings. Brian Baldinger will be on the national radio call for Compass Media Networks. And, of course, you can follow him on the X platform at Baldy NFL. Use the hashtag Baldy's Breakdowns to check out what he's watching in this one between the Eagles and the Vikings. And he joined us right here on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Baldy, always great to catch up with you, pal.
You bet, Mike. I'll talk to you real soon, buddy. Good luck.
All right, of course, Baldy on the national call of the Eagles and the Vikings. You'll hear from Merrill and Mike right here on 97.3 ESPN. As always, Baldy joining us here with the breakdown. And, he did agree that, yes, they're running the same play, but there are guys open. They got to start executing. This is what it comes down to.
So it's scheme and talent, or what? Both?
Well, everybody wants to blame the play caller, and they're saying it's predictable. And the players are saying predictable. I think it's more predictable in terms of how and when they're calling plays. Maybe not the play is so predictable, but, hey, you're going to pass here. And then your passing game is predictable. But like Baldy said, if you run something and you run it well, you could run it again.
That's what they did last year, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah, to 2,000 yards.
Here's a handoff off the right side. And he did say, I feel like they're missing Mekhi Becton. That was one big thing that stood out is, hey, and he said not that Steen's doing a bad job, it's the push that Becton got would just drive you so far off the ball. All right, coming up when we come back, we got our boy Chuck Adell. He gave us another winner last week with that Kansas. How many people heard Chuck give you the Chiefs over the Lions, and you were like, dude, I'm not taking that pick? Well, if you played it, you would have won. He's got another pick next on the Sports Bash. All right, hour two of the Sports Bash live from Chickies and Pete's, Egg Harbor Township. Go where the players go. Right here tonight, you got Thursday Night Football. You got Flyers tonight. You got NLCS tonight. You can listen to the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. Thursday Night Football, Steelers and Bengals. Our sister station, Rock 104.1, will have the Flyers and the Jets. And, of course, the Eagles play this weekend. But right now, we're turning our attention to the Phillies. Dave Dombrowski, Rob Thomson. You're going to hear them both this hour. We will have the Dave Dombrowski press conference coming up for you in just a moment, followed by the Rob Thomson press conference. So take a listen, text in throughout your thoughts, things that he says that bother you, things that he says that stick out to you, things that he says that you like. 609-403-0973. Here is Phillies President of Baseball Operations, Dave Dombrowski, right now on the Sports Bash.
Dave, what went to the decision to bring back Rob? Was there any serious conversation about perhaps not bringing him back? And is there any extension in play for him?
Well, there was really not much other than the perfunctory after the season, because you're so much in the middle of everything taking place that you're not really focused on that nor anything else, which we've had to do a lot of things of that sort after the season. But really, he was already signed for this coming year, so it really was just a matter of moving forward and having conversations in regards to a lot of different topics with him. I do think at some point we talked that adding in a year into his contract at some point this wintertime, it just was not. There's been so many other things we've had to tackle in the meantime that that hasn't been the highest priority for him nor us, but we will hopefully do that sometime in the wintertime.
Dave, a year ago you sat here and said you had to be open-minded to change, but that it wasn't necessarily going to be a lot of change, status quo. How do you enter this offseason leaving in a similar round? Roster is similar to last year. When you go into this offseason, do you think there needs to be more change?
Well, need to be more change. We won 96 games. And again, you're always looking to get better. So we will be open-minded to that. I think it's a little bit different in that there's some built-in situations for us that are going to have to be addressed. And so where you go as a club is very much dictated on some of those moves that end up happening, because we've got some key players that are free agents for us. We've got the three that were with us all year long, with Schwarbs and JT and Ranger, and then you're in a position where Harrison Bader did a really nice job for us too. And we have others that are free agents, but those are really the four key guys for us. So bringing them back, not bringing them back, we'd love to have them all if it worked out. It's probably impractical when you're going to have all four of them back. We also have some young players that we're going to mesh into our club, leave open. I'm not going to declare that anybody has a job, but there will be some people that were really open-minded to being with our big league club next year coming out of spring training. Justin Crawford's one of them. Andrew Painter's another one. Otto Kemp's another one. I wouldn't even preclude Aiden Miller from being that type guy. We really like Gabriel Rincones, who's got a lot of pop in his bat and really hits right-handed pitching even better. So when you start seeing where you end up being those free agents and then given some of the youngsters, I think you have to balance that equation, and then you end up evaluating other moves that you make. We have a very substantial big league payroll, and I don't see that that's going to change. John is very supportive of that. We have a good club with a lot of good players, but you don't have unlimited. I mean, I read some places, how they get better is, they sign this guy, they sign that guy. I don't think we're going to have a $400 million payroll. I just don't think that that's a practicality. But we will be open-minded to getting better and making moves, sure.
The outfield as a place where you can enact change.
Well, you can, and I would think it would be. That's because the infield is pretty well solidified. But again, is it catcher? I don't know, because I hope we bring JT back, but I don't know. Where does the DH aspect of that fit into, and the outfield, who plays into that? Justin Crawford, you're looking to put into there, so into a position there and keep it open. So, I mean, outfield's a practical because it's the one area that's probably not as strong as some of the other areas with the club, but it was much improved the second half. I don't know where Bader fits into that. If he re-signs, that changes the picture too. So, but it's, that's a logical area that you would look at.
Dave, a couple things to just kind of drill down into. The outfield side of things, obviously Harrison was really effective for you in center field. He has played left. Crawford has played, center and left for you guys. I'm wondering, do you see a scenario where they could both be in your outfield next year? And do you have a preference for one over the other in center or left?
Well, I wouldn't say any preferences one way or the other and all that. And I don't really know how all that picture is going to work together, because when you start talking about the free agency aspect of it, the growth of Crawford, Rojas still is a guy that we like. He would have been, I saw somebody say, geez, I don't know why they didn't have more speed on their bench. Well, he would have been on our bench, but he was hurt at the end of the year, and he's fine now. He'll play winter ball. But how all that mixture works together with Brandon Marsh and Castellanos and all that, we'll just have to wait and see. But I will, and I think that's one of the things you'd have to look for us is who is your best center fielder if you have all those guys, if they're on your team. Crawford can play left or center. Bader can play left or center. He's been exceptional in center field. Marsh can play both. He's probably played better, he's been fine in center, but he's been a little bit better in left. So I don't know which roles they would play to be dependent upon who made the club at a particular time.
And just on the infield side, you talked about some stability there. With Bryson Stott, it's been now several years where he's really struggled to hit lefties, and obviously they came up in a big spot. Do you see him as your everyday second baseman going forward, or is that a potential spot to work in Aiden Miller, in addition to obviously, Sosa, who did so much for you this year?
Well, Miller, I guess, could eventually play second, but Miller's coming up here. He's going to be an everyday player at the beginning of his career here. We're not going to bring him up and not play the majority of time. I mean, Bryson Stott's a really good player. He has not hit left-handed pitching as well as we'd like at times, but he has at other times. So it's just, I think it's almost a misnomer when you say somebody's an everyday player nowadays. When you look around Major League Baseball, it's a 162-game grueling schedule, really, when you start traveling and start doing everything. And so there are very few players that play just every single day unless you're stars. And I mean, Stott sometimes played versus lefties and sometimes not, but he's a really good player, all-around player. And I'm sure like many times your manager, in this case Toppers, but when any manager, they look at matchups. I mean, you're looking at a situation as, for us in this case, is Sosa going to give us a better chance to win this game because this left-hander is really tough to hit versus a left-hander. I mean, years ago, you didn't see left-handed hitters hit versus Randy Johnson, for example. I don't care if he was an everyday player or not. You play a right-handed hitter at that particular time because you thought it gave you a better chance to win that game. But I think all in all, Bryson Stott is an everyday player, but at times I'm sure he'll rest him versus tough left-handers.
Okay, front row here, Tim.
If there were a few moments this season where Nick seemed upset with his role and maybe with Rob to a degree, I know he's under contract, but can that relationship continue for another season?
Well, we'll see what happens. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to get into specific players that are on our roster under contract, but the things that you talked about are accurate, but we'll see what happens.
And then did Bryce come out of the season okay? He had the wrist injury at some point in the summer. Is that something you expect to have to be addressed at all this offseason?
He's fine. Yeah, he's 100%. There was no issues at the end of the season with his wrist.
Grace?
Dave, what do you need to see from Justin Crawford to make you confident that he can be an everyday starter in 2026?
Well, I think he needs to go to camp and just do what he's basically been doing. He's led leagues in hitting. He can steal bases. He's a good energy guy. He's a solid outfielder. So you just want somebody to come in and just keep their head above water to show you. I don't expect him to carry our club in the very beginning of the season, but you also don't want to put him in there where you think that he would be a bit too much for him. I don't think that's going to happen, but you still need to show it. But I don't know what else he really does at the minor league level at this point. He's at 340 at the AAA level and leads the league in stolen bases, or among the league leaders in stolen bases. So it's really a matter that you just want to make sure you watch him, that you feel comfortable. And he has never been overwhelmed when he's been with us at any level, and we keep moving him up. And of course, he's got the Major League Baseball background. So you really want to just see that he just continues to handle himself the same way that he has.
Okay, Colin, Jason, the Crystal, all in that front row. Yeah.
Dave, it's difficult to evaluate the 162 versus a short playoff series, but how much does that change over 4 playoff runs and 9 series when it's been a decent amount of the same players on the roster?
Well, I think, again, you have to be practical in your evaluation. And when I say this, I understand fans' perspective, right? I mean, it's emotional, right? Boom, you get it. But I have to keep an even keel perspective. I mean, if I said to you, let's just pretend, okay, we're going to change our team, and just a question. So we're not bringing back one of our free agents that you really want us to bring back. Well, there'd be an uproar, right? Well, so you have to keep an equal perspective. You have to remember, we won 96 games. We have the potential. I mean, frankly, I was in 23, I was more heartbroken that we lost that series because I thought we had a really good chance to win it. I don't think in 24 the Mets played really well. I thought there was some pitching that we maybe would be able to hit. We did not hit it as convincingly. We struggled. This year, we faced the wrong club. For us at the time, that's a really, really good club. They are the defending world champions. And again, that starting pitching, I've been with clubs that have had as good a starting pitching as you will ever have. And I'm talking about Hall of Famers with a Verlander, a Scherzer, Price's, Porcello, Cy Young Award winners, league leader in earner average, Anibal Sanchez. That staff we face is as good as any of them. That's how good they are. And so you're just in a position that, hey, and we beat clubs when we had those guys pitching. And we lost other series, but we lost when somebody would we lose 1-0, somebody hit a home run, perhaps. So I think you have to keep in perspective on what happened and why you lost. And you always look to get better, and we will continue to get better because we're not satisfied at all. Our goal is to get into a series like that and win this series. But I don't think you just break up clubs because you think, I mean, some of it happens naturally that we're talking about. I mean, I don't think, I'm not making any proclamations on anybody. Max Kepler, I think, did a solid job for us, right? Well, he's not going to most likely be back because he's a free agent and we have Justin Crawford coming. So there's a built-in type of adjustment. And then when you deal with your free agents, you deal with those and see what happens. But when you look back, I don't think any big league clubs have just gone out there and just said, the Atlanta Braves way back when, it was a lot of years before they won a world championship, and they had Smoltz, Glavine, Maddox in their rotation, and they had Andrew Jones in center and Chipper Jones and a lot of other good players, and they kept going at it, and they finally won it. And then they played better that particular year, and I think that's what we need to do is to continue to strive to get a little bit better.
Jason on the left.
Dave, after Game 4, Kyle talked about his admiration for this organization, how most people here have become family. Now, I know, the business of professional sports is always going to prevail, and you can't tell the future, and these things are nuanced, but what kind of priority are you guys putting on bringing him back?
Oh, we love to bring Kyle Schwarber back. It's a priority for us. He knows it. But I also know he's a free agent. So that's what ends up happening when guys have free agency. You never know what happens. But, it's a real priority for us to try to bring him back. And he knows it, and his representative knows it. But we'll see what happens.
Bryce had said in the spring and again this summer he would be open to maybe moving off of first base if the right opportunity presented itself for the team. Now, he also said, long-term, I want to stay at first base. Is that something you could explore? How creative do you think you could possibly get in terms of reshaping the roster in the offseason?
Well, again, we'll have to that's a tough question to answer because I don't know what free agents we're signing, which ones we're not. But I think Bryce is a first baseman at this time. I mean, that's where we look at him as, and he has asked to go on to the outfield. He would be willing to do so. But I think it would be more for the short term if we had done something at the trading deadline. But it's been a while since he's been out. I'm sure he'd be fine. but he's a really good first baseman, and I think for us, that's the position we look at him playing for us.
Go to Ty on the right.
Dave, what's your understanding of where Zach Wheeler is at and sort of how you think he might be entering the season, and does that change anything about how you approach your rotation for next year?
Well, Zach is starting next week, will come in his rehab program. He's basically been resting so far. Everything has gone well with the surgery. He feels fine. He feels like he should be. He'll start next week. And again, nothing's changed in the regards that they feel it would be 6 to 8 months that he could be back pitching for us. So that takes you from the beginning of, and that's in a game at the major league level during the regular season. So that takes you from the end of spring training to the end of May. That's what our time frame is with him at this point. I don't think it'll affect us a great deal with what we do because we are looking for him to come back. There would have to be something that nobody would know this at this point because the surgery is good. But if everything continues to go as progressed and feels that we're on the same time frame, that would be the thought process.
And how much does the emergence of Christopher Sanchez make you more comfortable just having, with a little bit of uncertainty when Zach might be back, kind of that range, that you have a top of the rotation guy?
Well, it helps, but I would rather have Zach Wheeler back and Christopher Sanchez. So, I mean, that's the reality of it. And I'd like to have, I think for me, what has been, and I've dealt with thoracic outlet syndromes in the past with a few of the players. It's not a lot of them. But as I've learned more about it, the difference in the thoracic outlet syndromes that there are, I feel much more optimistic than when I first heard that statement made when he first had it, that there is a differences between them, and they feel that pretty comfortable that he should be able to come back in that 6 to 8 month time with the same ability that he had in the past.
When you look at Rob as manager, what qualities do you think he embraces that could potentially help lead the club on another deep postseason run next year?
Well, I think he's a good manager. I mean, is really what it comes down to. And there's so many qualities when you talk about a manager that's a good manager. He knows the game very well. He's inside and out in that regard. He communicates with his players. He works hard. I don't think he leaves any stone unturned. He's on top of everything in that regard. He works well with the coaching staff, and we're fundamentally prepared. He's not afraid to tackle topics with his players. So I think all of those are factors, and many, many more that lead him to be a good manager. And I think one thing that always comes into play, which is a manager, general manager too, same thing. We make many, many decisions, right? Manager makes more on a daily basis, right? He's given hit and run, steal, bunt, whatever it may be. They're not all going to work. And B, I don't know anybody that would ever agree with any decision all the time that somebody made. I've been around, and I've said this before, so I won't go into it. I was around Jim Leland and Tony La Russa all the time. They're in the Hall of Fame. They're two of the best managers in the history of the game. I'm sitting upstairs. I never agreed with everything that they did all the time. Nor did their bench coach, nor did anybody else. But if you ever asked them why they did it, they had a reason behind it. They don't say, oh, I flipped a coin and I decided to do that, right? They're really on top of it. And so sometimes from a strategical perspective, managers, hey, I've made plenty of bad decisions in my career as a general manager that it could have been better. You make mistakes, or you make things that can be questioned. But if you do it soundly, with sound reason, but I think there's way too much emphasis that's always placed on that didn't go well or this didn't go well. It's different than if you're doing something that just doesn't make sense. I mean, if you're pinch running, let's say you pinch run a catcher who can't run for a speedster in a 2-2 game at second base, I'd say, like, well, really, what are you doing, right? This not a very sound move. But that doesn't happen at the big league level. So I think that you just you review the overall picture of what somebody does, and I think he does a really good job for us.
To follow up on some of the things you spoke about a handful of answers back with the talent of the club, the the randomness of the postseason, the frustration from the fans and with your team. Why should fans believe in this team going forward after the heartbreak of losing 10 of the last 13 playoff games?
Well, because they're a good team and they play hard. It's funny when you say that. I have friends all over the country, and look at the support we get from the club, not only during the season, but during the postseason, all the time. But they'll say, gosh, you have a good club. What a fun club to watch. I really enjoy it. It is. Like, we have some of the best players in baseball, right? So that's why, and we'll continue. We have ownership that is dedicated to winning. We have good baseball people in the organization. We have good players. And so I think you remain optimistic. And you have to remember, it's hard to win. I was telling somebody, in my career, I've been in the postseason a bunch of times when we had the capabilities to do it, and some really good teams. We didn't win. It's hard, it's just a hard thing to do. And you just have to remain optimistic that you have good players that work hard, that you like watching play, and then you're in a position that at the right time, they get it done. Somebody hits the 3-run homer for your club that makes the difference. Somebody makes the error on the other team. And it isn't like we go into a season and don't have the capabilities to win it. We will have the capabilities next year going into the season to win a world championship. Now we have to go do it.
Hey, Devin?
Hi, Dave. With the uncertainties around the starting pitching staff that you touched on, Zach Wheeler, Ranger Suárez's future, what did you see from Andrew Painter this past season in the minors, or what do you need to see from him moving forward to give you confidence that he can be a starting pitcher at the major league level to start next season?
Well, in Painter's case, he still has quality stuff. He still throws his fastball in the upper 90s, touches 100. He still has quality breaking stuff. And I think most importantly, he remained healthy and went out there every 5 days, 6 days. So those things are the encouragement. He needs a little bit better command than what he had. He used to have great command. It wasn't quite as good this year. That's when he primarily got hurt. It wasn't because of his stuff. And normally when you trace back to a lot of people that have had Tommy John, that's the last thing that comes back. So we're optimistic that will, with a regular off-season training program and getting ready to come into season, that he'll be able to regain that.
Hey, Dave, the bullpen went through a variety of challenges throughout the season, and at the end, you guys didn't seem to have the greatest confidence in using a lot of the starters in games 3 and 4, specifically against the Dodgers. With that said, does that make you look at the construction of it differently going into 26 than maybe you did going into 25?
Well, it'll be different for one point. We have a closer. So that's big difference. So somebody who's going to get the ball in the 9th inning, then you build around that. Strom did solid, and he made a couple bad pitches in the postseason, but he had a good year for us. Banks did a good job for us from the left-hand side. Alvarado, we talked about. I'd be surprised without making any announcements that Alvarado's not back with us, but we'll see what ends up happening. We like Kirkering from the right-hand side. We have to work through those issues. David Robertson's not going to be back with the season. I don't think he wants to pitch in the beginning of the season anymore throughout his lifespan. And so we have to build our bullpen based upon some of that. We have some young guys that we like that we're looking to make some strides. You've seen some of them, a Lazar type of guy. So we'll have to just look at the overall picture. But I do like the foundation of what our bullpen, when you start with Duran, and then if you have those guys from the left-hand side, and you have Kirkering come back to be the guy that he's capable of going, that's a pretty good foundation to start.
I don't know that we've ever gotten your take on Nick's discontent this year and how that might play into his future with the Phillies.
Right. Well, usually my take on those things are behind closed doors. Really is what it comes down to. I said this in the past, this is by no means the first incident I've ever had with players like this. Usually you have almost one every year, and sometimes more than that. usually doesn't come quite as public as that. But I usually, in my situation, settle it behind the scenes when I get involved, and I think that's the most appropriate fashion for me to handle that.
Did you settle it behind the scenes? Did you become involved?
Yes.
We got to see Otto Kemp in that utility role, played some left field, and showed some solid slug against left-handed pitching. Would you feel comfortable in a season-long platoon in left field with Brandon Marsh, who hit over 300 against righties, or do you think that might stunt Otto's progression?
I can't answer that question right now because I don't know the answer. I think Otto Kemp has a chance to be an everyday player, and he has a chance to be an everyday player next year. He has thump in his bat. That ball jumps off his bat, and we really like him. We like his makeup. He can play a couple different spots, as you've seen. What end up happening? Would he play all over the place? That also is a possibility. But we really like him a great deal.
Hey, Dave, over the summer, you said you viewed Aiden Miller as a shortstop. How did you feel his evaluation at that position went this year, and would you be open to potentially moving him around the diamond if possible?
Well, Aiden Miller, which going into the season, we thought he might be able to play shortstop, but we weren't sure, just based on his size, and he hadn't been with us that long. There came no question when I talked to people in our organization, they feel he can play shortstop. Of course, we have an all-star shortstop at this point. He stole over 50 bases. I never would have anticipated he had that type of speed. He actually gained speed, which is unusual. But he could play other positions. I don't have any question about that. Now, how you do that, how you go about it, I'm not sure even yet that we have that answer, because a lot of times with a young player, you don't want to just, he's played some second, he's played some third, but he's primarily been a shortstop, so we'd have to make sure that we properly prepared him to do that. And that's still a discussion that we'll have to have, but he's a really good player and a good athlete, so, and he can hit.
Dave, you guys asked Trey to kind of make an adjustment with his approach in the season, and it worked out really well for you guys. But he still felt a little dissatisfied personally because he feels like he could give you more slug, a little bit more pop. Going into next season, would you prefer to see the same thing that you got this year, or would you like to see maybe a little bit more like he wants to provide?
We don't need to see any more pop out of him. That's not why we signed him. That's why he's got enough pop. He'll hit with enough pop. His numbers were phenomenal. He had a really good season. He's a really good player. And when you look at his overall aspects of what he did defensively, which was tremendous improvement, tip of cap to him and to Bobby Dickerson and working with him. I know he's tough on himself. He's like one of these guys. He's going to be, if he doesn't hit 40 home runs and 40 doubles and 40 stolen bases, he's probably going to be, and lead the league in hitting, he's probably going to think that he needs to do more. That's how he is, and which is great. That's a great quality and attribute. But he doesn't have to hit with any more pop for us. He really did a fine job.
Okay, Destiny in the back.
Dave, Jesus had a really strong end to the season. He had a couple of really strong postseason outings. I believe he has 1 year left of control. Could an extension be something that you guys prioritize in the offseason?
Well, we haven't talked about that as of yet, but I'd love to have Jesus Luzardo be part of our organization for years to come. He's a really good pitcher. But we haven't tackled that as of yet. But he's a guy that we really like.
And as far as evaluating whether you guys want to bring back JT, how much do you weigh the success of the pitching staff over the last few years with him behind the backstop? And if he doesn't come back, like, do you think the pitching staff can kind of continue on and be successful?
Well, JT's a really good player. He's had a great career up to this point and continues to be a good player. One of his many strengths is handling a pitching staff. He does a great job. He works. And so if you don't have him, you have to try to replace that. There are very few guys that are quite as good as he is in that regard. But you have to do your best to try to replace that if he's not back with us. But I don't think your pitchers have to take a big step back, but they have to make adjustments, because right now, you don't see many people shake JT off. I mean, he does his work, and they feel very comfortable throwing to him, and they should. He's done a phenomenal job for us. But those are things, we want to bring him back. If you don't bring him back, then you have to work in trying to complement your organization with having someone have the qualities, as many of the qualities he has that he brings to the table on a daily basis.
All right, there's David Dombrowski. We'll have Rob Thomson coming up in a couple of moments here on the Sports Bash Live. Thoughts on that? I see some text messages coming in, 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. Got a lot of texts on what Dombrowski has said so far. What has stood out to you? Let us know.
That stuff about Harper, by the way, that's pretty blunt, right?
Well, he said he's not elite anymore, or he wasn't elite this year. Can he be that elite player? We need to find that out. What does Rob Thomson think about the season and what's next? By the way, some Paul George developing story. Woof. How about that? We'll get to that as well. Coming up, Rob Thomson next. Don't go away. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. All right, 335 Sports Pass Live, 97.3 ESPN. Our unsportsmanlike moment of the day today will be Rob Thomson. You're about to hear from him coming up in just a moment on the Sports Bash. Our unsportsmanlike moment of the day, Rob Thomson spoke today. It's brought to you by Whitehorse RV Center. Fine fall closeout savings on 2025s and select pre-owned RVs. Shop now before they're gone. Whitehorse RV, your RV adventure starts here. We're live. Chickies and Pete's in Egg Harbor Township. Go where the players go. Get those A.J. Brown Sweet Heat Hot Wings, the Garage 62. It's the burger in the Garage 62. Jason Kelsey beer. You get that all right here at Chickies and Pete's in Egg Harbor Township. 4 o'clock hour, Adam Kaplan, football at 4 today, plus Knicks Nuggets. 5 o'clock hour, one thought every game with Casey Joyner. And then we'll be talking with Adam Amin. He's going to be on the Fox play-by-play call. I want to get what his notes say about the Eagles and the Vikings this week. By the way, Paul George, it looks like, will not play in the opener, coming back from arthroscopic surgery in July. So it looks like Paul George will be out. Joel Embiid might play tomorrow night in the preseason. I don't even know if I want him to play.
I would say that he is going to play, right? If they,
it's trending in that direction.
If they floated that out there, I don't know why they would.
Well, the fact that he played in the blue and white scrimmage,
right.
And now they're saying, like, there's a good chance, or we hope he'll play. I would imagine he'll play.
The fans would be in uproar if he does not play, I'll tell you that.
All right, right now, you just heard from Dave Dombrowski. Now you're going to hear from Topper. Text in throughout the conversation, Rob Thomson, 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. Give us your thoughts on what you hear from Rob Thomson. Here is the Phillies manager.
How would you describe your relationship now with Nick Castellanos now that the season is over? Was there an exit interview? You know, obviously you're not going to give us particulars, but
yeah.
How would you say that relationship is right now?
My perspective, it's good. I mean, I never hold any grudges, or if I have a problem with a player or another coach, it doesn't linger. I'm always a guy that's going to turn the page on that type of thing.
Rob, when you look at this lineup in particular, and it's going to change for next year, but overall, if you could look at it and say, I could really use this in the lineup, is there of this that you would want?
Well, it's, our lineup's pretty deep. We're awfully left-handed, I can say that. So where that comes from, right-handed, about where that comes from, I don't know. Is it out there? I don't know. But we're awfully left-handed this year anyway.
Let's go to Devin in the front here.
Hi, Rob. With a fan base that's understandably, frustrated with the team coming up short several postseasons in a row, what would you say to reinstill confidence in them, in you as a manager of this team moving forward and in the team moving forward?
Well, we're a pretty good team. I mean, we won 96 games this year, fought the Dodgers tooth and nail. That series could have gone either way. I've been in the major leagues 22 years, and I've been fortunate enough to have really good players, be around really good players, and been in the postseason 14 of those 22 years. Have won it once and been to the World Series and lost the other time. It is difficult to grind through all these series. It really is. And you look back at 22, we got hot at the right time. We caught a bunch of breaks during that postseason run, and that's what you got to do. And in this series, I did not particularly think we played poorly. I thought we played well. We played well on defense. We faced a really good pitching staff, but I loved our at-bats. Let me put it another way. I liked our at-bats a lot better this postseason than I did last postseason, and arguably against better pitching. Not that the Mets pitching wasn't very good. So I'm bullish on this team. I really am. Partly because we have a great front office, great owner. We're going to go out and try to make this team better. But the core people that we have here are outstanding. We have an outstanding staff. We have an outstanding training staff. So I'm very bullish on this organization.
You talked about being left-handed heavy. Bader had a really nice year, but if you look at his career, he's been kind of a below-average offensive performer. So what makes you a believer, if you guys decide you want to bring him back, what makes you a believer that that is who he is and not maybe what he has been in the past?
Well, I think he's made some adjustments prior to this year, and that's what gave him a little bit better offensive year. So I'm just banking on the fact that he continues to either maintain or even get better, because that's what he did this year. His numbers were really good. He was actually better against right-hand pitching than he was against left-hand pitching. So, you know, I think he's a guy that's going to work at it. He's going to just keep getting better.
Bryce had the kind of year that I think a lot of people would take, but it was below his standard. What do you make of his season, and just kind of like where do you feel he is going forward?
I think he's highly motivated to have the best season of his career next year. That's what the plan's going to be for him. Played in 132 games and hit 27 home runs. It's pretty good. You know, you add on another 30 games or 25 games, whatever it is. The numbers look pretty good. But yeah, I mean, it was down a little bit, but still over an 840 OPS, something like that. That's pretty good.
When you say highly motivated, I mean, do you get a sense that it's any different than any other, year going in? Just kind of how your conversations with him before he left, or before it all.
Well, I think, and he hasn't told me this, but that type of person, and I've seen it before where they've had bad years, they go like gangbusters during the off season to get better, because they want to get back to where they normally are at. And I think that's just Harp's mindset. I think that's what he's going to do.
Okay, Charlotte on the left.
And I know retirement has been on your mind in the past. David mentioned maybe working on an extension this winter. Is that something you'd be interested in, or?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't know how long I'm going to manage. You got to have somebody that wants you first. But I've said it many times, the last 4 years have been the most fun in my career. And it has to do with the people in the organization, the players, staff, front office, the fan base, how I'm treated by you guys. I mean, I feel like I'm treated very fairly. And as long as I'm happy and my family's happy, I'm having fun, and they want me, I'll manage. But when I'm not having fun, they don't want me, I feel like I'm getting in the way, then it's time to go home.
A couple of guys who their futures aren't certain here. JT, how much intangible value does he have that we don't see that increases his value beyond, whatever his OPS is and managing the staff preparation, things like that? You seem to be a big fan of his.
Yeah.
Why?
And I can't put a dollar sign on it. It's just hard to do it. But this guy is, and I've had a lot of great catchers. I've been around. Posada, Pudge Rodriguez for a short period of time. It goes on and on and on. This guy, to me, is the most prepared guy I've ever been around as a catcher. He will spend hours watching video, making up his own game plan, and then matching it up with Caleb and talking with the pitchers. And he's got a great feel for in-game adjustments, when to go to the mound, when to change the pitch, when to change location. I can't put a number on it, but it's significant. I mean, he's just that good.
Dave sat up there and mentioned several prospects that he views as potential contributors for 2026. Do you believe the club would benefit from an infusion of some younger players into the mix?
I love young players because they always bring energy, but they got to perform too, but I do, those guys we're talking about, Painter, I think he's going to be better second year out after the Tommy John. The command's going to get better. The quality of stuff's going to get a little bit better. He's going to be fine. Crawford looks like he's, not much more you can do in the minor leagues for him. And I know there's a lot of talk about Aiden Miller. He's come very quickly. So it'll be very interesting next spring training because those guys, they're on the doorstep and a couple of them are ready to go. So we'll see. But I love having young players around because I think it boosts the energy of the team, the experienced guys, the fan base. The fan base loves watching young kids have success. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to spring training to see how these guys do.
Rob, I guess there's been a lot of talk about running it back versus making changes. If this club does look pretty similar again next year, how confident would you be that you guys can get over the hump? And then I guess how much do you value the continuity versus the risk of just doing kind of the same thing that hasn't led to a championship?
Well, I think every team changes a little bit over the course, from year to year. So that there's always change in there. But I'm really comfortable with this core group. They work extremely hard. They're always prepared. So we will have changes to try to get better on the edges. But if we ran back the biggest part of our core group, I'm extremely confident in that.
Howard in the middle.
Hey, Rob. A couple of things. One, just in terms of Bryson Stott, somebody who looked like he was on the cusp of hitting lefties about as well as he was hitting righties. Last couple of years, it hasn't gone that way. I know when we talked about it a year ago, a lot of it was injury-based. It seems like it was a healthier year for him.
Yep.
Wondering kind of where you see him relative to being an everyday player with obviously the caveat, Sosa had a great year for you, hitting some lefties, playing second.
Yeah, I've said this before. I view Stott as an everyday player. But Sosa's numbers are so good against left-handed pitching that you got to fit him someplace. And whether it's at third base when Bone was hurt or mixed in for Stott against a lefty. So I view Stott as an everyday hitter. I think if he played every single day against left-handed pitching, he'd get better. He'd put up pretty good numbers. And I think the change that they made, I can't give it, let's say middle of July, with his hands. From that point on, he really had quality at bats, and those are the type of at bats that I saw way back in 22 and in the fall league in 21, and hopefully he carries that over. But I think that change he made was significant, and he got much better after that.
During the season, you brought up multiple times how, I'm paraphrasing, that this club realizes they have to get the job done. Right? And then in this press conference, you reiterated how much fun you've had doing this and how meaningful this job is to you. Factoring all those in, as well as the randomness of the playoffs and how difficult it is to win, how much has every postseason game since Game 2 of the 23 LCS and this tough stretch you guys have had, how much has that bugged you, gnawed at you, and motivate you to get the job done next season?
Every time we get knocked out, and that's the 13 out of 14 times that I've been in the playoffs, it hurts. I mean, to the core. And I don't think you ever forget. I don't. I mean, I'll wear this until the first day of spring training. I'll never forget, but at first day of spring training, I got to turn the page and I got to go. But I'm telling you, it really hurts.
You had said going into the season that you hoped for Alec Boehm to handle the highs and the lows well. What did you see in how he met that goal?
I thought he was much better over the course of the year. Much more mature, handled the downs a lot better, he was more on an even keel over the course of the year. Now everybody blows up at some point because they get frustrated, and it's a tough sport, and there's a lot of failure here. But I thought overall he was much, much better.
Okay. Yeah, now.
You mentioned, if I could follow up on Bryce Harper, you'd mentioned that he's going to be highly motivated to come back strong next year and everything. And I just wanted to ask, how important, whether or not you guys have changes or not in the lineup with, guys like Schwarber and JT, who may or may not be back, what do you need to see from Bryce as far as going forward that maybe you didn't see as much this season?
What I like to see is him just be himself, try not to do too much, really focus on hitting the ball the other way. Because when he does that, when he stays on the ball, he is such a great hitter, but I think he gets into the mindset that he just tries to do a little bit too much because he knows that he's Bryce Harper, and then he starts getting off the ball and things like that. So I just want him to be himself. That's all.
Hey, Rob, earlier when you were talking about the Kirkering play, you said that there was a dozen other things that happened before it, right? And you even said that there were a couple of decisions that you made that, didn't work out. With hindsight being 2020, is there anything that you would have done differently in the 4 games?
Well, not necessarily in the 4 games. But what I would have done differently is checked a few more boxes going into the playoffs. As far as like David Robertson having an up-down. He hadn't had one. Bringing Strawman in the middle of an inning. We didn't check that box. Tried to. Would it have made a difference? I don't know. But I know that if we checked that box, I could sleep a little bit better.
Dave expressed kind of the infusion of youth. I know you've touched on it a bit, but how excited are you to see a player like Justin Crawford or even an Ian Miller and Andrew Painter just try to crack this lineup next year?
Yeah, it's always exciting. I come from player development. I always feel like I'm a player development guy. So I love young kids. I love seeing them grow, getting better, getting to the big leagues, reaching their goals, their dreams. It's always exciting for me.
Rob, in terms of lineup construction, we saw a lot of Alec Boehm, JT Realmuto in the cleanup spot. 2 contact first bats who struggled with runners in scoring position this year. Are you taking this contact first approach in the cleanup spot into next season, or is it too early to say?
Yeah, it's too early to say.
And to follow up, do you think Otto Kemp could be an everyday player for you down the line? Is what you took away from his utility man role enough for you to firmly say that?
Yeah, I think so. I think he, will continue to help him get better on the defensive side, but I really liked his at-bats. He uses the entire field. He's got a lot of thump. He's grounded emotionally, mentally, and emotionally. I really like him. I think he can be an everyday player.
Just to follow on Justin Crawford, he's played center field, he's played some left field. What do you hear from player development about kind of where he might be the best fit out there?
Yeah, from what I hear, he can play both well. Maybe a little bit better in left than he is in center, but we'll see.
To talk about running it back with a similar team, in the clubhouse and for yourself, do you feel like the opposite can be true, that you actually know how close you are and it can work? Let's not be premature to break something up, but let's keep going with what we got because it is so hard to win and we have the pieces ready to go. Let's just give it another run.
Yeah, I'm a believer in that. I really am because I believe in these players and I know what type of conditioning they do to keep their bodies in shape and how much they prepare and how much they work and compete. So I do, but there's always going to be change. There's always going to be change. So just hopefully make the right changes.
Rob, how would you evaluate the job that Rafael Marchand did, 105 at-bats?
Unbelievable. I mean, that is one of the toughest jobs you can ever have, is to be the backup catcher to JT Realmuto. Play every 5 days. Plus, this is a young player who's played pretty much every day when he's played in the minor leagues, to be able to come up, make that adjustment. Plus, he's a switch hitter. He's got to do extra work because he's got to practice from both sides of the plate. I think he's learned a lot from JT and from Caleb about game planning and preparing for that night's game. I think he did a phenomenal job. He really did.
Rob, 2 years ago, the messaging after the Game 7 loss was we need to eliminate some of the chasing. Last year was focus on going the other way. Like, what is the overarching message this year as far as, like, the approach? Like, does the approach at all need to change?
I'm still working on that because, like I said earlier, I thought we really played well during that series. And it was, you look at all the stats, offense, defense, pitching, it's so close. We stayed in the zone for the most part. much better than we did the previous year. So I'm still working on a message because I'm trying to figure out, what exactly went wrong there because, again, I thought we played well.
JT said in the locker room after game 4 that last year's loss hurt a little bit more because he felt that you guys kind of beat yourselves up. Like, do you kind of agree with him that, like, last year you guys might have, like, beat yourselves, but this year it's a little bit different?
Yeah, but it still hurts. But, yeah, I thought we played much better this year than we did last year.
All right, there's Rob Thomson. You heard from Topper. You heard from Dave Dombrowski. We got a ton of text messages on everything they had to say. 609-403-0973. Your thoughts on what Topper and Dombrowski said. A lot of people pointing out some of the things about running it back. And I would say this. It sounds like they're going to at least run the core back. It is hard for me to see them making major changes. But just because he said, like, one of the things they said, the infield's intact, that to me doesn't mean they couldn't move one of those guys. Even though they're saying it now, intact means they're all signed. But would they trade Alec Boehm and play Aiden Miller at third base? Because one of the things that Dombrowski said is that Miller can play pretty much anywhere, but that he would not platoon football at 4 with Adam Kaplan coming up next. Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by the Fanatic Sportsbook at the Gallery Bar Book and Games Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. We'll be there on Monday. Today we're at Chickies and Pete's in Egg Harbor Township. I always marvel at the fact that, how are you, sir? There's a full bar here at 4 o'clock. There's not one seat available.
Why
I envy
not,
all
man?
these people.
Well, you got 2 more hours to go.
These teams are driving these people to drink.
That's true.
That's what they're. Dave Dombrowski and Rob Thomson drove people to drink. Our text board lighting up today. Let's get into football at 4. Adam Kaplan, who I know was listening to Dave Dombrowski today, but the Eagles got their own problems getting ready for the Minnesota Vikings. It's today's football at 4 with Adam Kaplan from the Inside the Birds podcast. Adam, how are you?
Time they'll lose 3 in a row. You can't have that.
Yes, indeed. Well, did you know that the Dodger pitchers are really good? Were you aware?
Yeah, I know. Look, Dombrowski's a good GM. There's no question. But my goodness, could you just acknowledge that the guys didn't hit? Oh, I love how he said, "Oh, well, you know, they went against great pitching." No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding. I mean, it's just it's sometimes he's just not realistic, but it is what it is.
Well, what's realistic is the Eagles need a win here because, Adam, I'm looking at the NFC right now. I got 3 teams in the West at 4-2. I got every team in the North with a winning record right now. Obviously Philadelphia has a winning record at 4-2, but a loss here. If Washington wins against Dallas, I mean, they could be out of the playoffs potentially with a loss this week. So let's assess the Eagles' chances of winning against a Vikings team that is very creative defenses here. But what is something that they have struggled against defensively?
This surprised me. Now, let me rephrase this. Javon Hargrave's a part of this. Javon Hargrave, the former Eagle defensive tackle, was released by the Niners this offseason, and he signed with the Vikings. They're going with this, older defensive front. Jonathan Allen, former first-round pick for the Commandos, he's there as well. They're not stopping the run really well. In fact, Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, you might have seen this week, run very well in their win against Buffalo. They went for 219 yards on the ground, those two, against the Vikings earlier this season. 2 weeks ago, this stunned me. Kenny Gainwell's best game as a professional came against those Vikings. 99 yards on the ground. Kenny Gainwell, yes, that same Kenny Gainwell. And Quinshon Judkins, the second-round pick for the Browns, ran for 110 against them. So they've shown a vulnerability against the run. Now, we know the Eagles have been awful, horrendous running the football. As we outlined, Mike, on Inside the Tape with Greg Cosell, it's not a Saquon Barkley issue. It's an offensive line problem. They've not blocked well at all. It's hard to believe. We didn't know this coming into the season. It is what it is. The tape shows it. They're struggling physically. A lot of physical errors, by the way. And they've got to get this thing. They're going to have to do it. I mean, it's something they've got to get done here on the carpet, on the field turf in Minnesota. So this is something they're going to have to do, and they've got to make a commitment to it. And I expect them to try to do that in this game.
Yeah, I guess one question I would ask is this performance related in terms of health, downgrade in talent? I mean, what do you make of why the offensive line? Because they only switch one guy, and most people you talk to would say, Steve's been okay. It's not like he's been an albatross there. So why is the offensive line, and is it something that is fixable?
All right, left to right. Jordan Mailata's not had a good season. It's just every game there's a handful of plays where he just doesn't block as well as you would like him to. That has been a problem. Landon Dickerson's health obviously has been a major issue with the left ankle injury. They're optimistic for this week, but he's not been quite what we're used to. Cam Jurgens coming off back surgery, not what we were expecting from him. Now he admitted that it's like he doesn't feel 100% back from the back surgery. And remember, he didn't do anything in the offseason, had a limited training camp, no preseason. He's not himself right now. Right guard, Tyler Steen's been up and down. We asked Greg Cosell that. I asked him that on our show this week. We broke down the offense, which you could find on YouTube, or you can listen to it if you'd like on pod version. And Lane Johnson, look, Lane is still really good. He hasn't been quite himself. And then the bizarre part about this, Mike, and I wish the reporters, Kevin Patullo is a little bit more upfront than Sirianni is. I would love them to ask, why are you not running the ball outside? That is bizarre to me. They rarely do it. they've never been a big outside team, but this is absurd, the lack of outside runs. Very noticeable, Mike. It's not acceptable. Now, it goes to your point, are they physically not right? I think it's because of the health of the offensive line. That would be my hypothesis. Now, we still don't know the answer to that, but it's got to get better, Mike. They got to diversify this run game. This is ridiculous already.
Yeah, they are struggling running the ball, but as you look at some of the running backs against the Vikings, Bijan and Algier, we just watched that game, 219. Gainwell, the former Eagle, he had almost 100 yards in the game.
That's crazy.
And you mentioned Judkins with 110. All right, well, what about Jalen Hurts? Hey, man, you might have to throw the ball this week. How does that look?
It's funny, though. One thing about the Vikings, for a long time, they had one of the best run defense. Not anymore now. Quarterback-wise, they'll see Isaiah Rodgers. I mean, they're going to see him and Byron Murphy. Rodgers has had a nice season. Now, he's made a number of big plays. See, the Eagles, and my understanding was when they made him their offer, they gave him sort of. Now, the Vikings offer was better. I mean, I know that for a fact. In fact, the second year, the Vikings gave some guaranteed money. The Eagles' contract was it was kind of like they had one foot in, not both. And that was part of the problem. But Rodgers is a smaller corner, no doubt about it. I'd like to see, if I'm the Eagles, you can't be bashful. I mean, I know he's having the best year of his career, but you got to go after him. And Byron Murphy is a good player. He's number 7, coming up from the Cardinals. Now, none of these guys are what we call number 1 corners. They're more of number 2s. You could go after those guys. And it's really interesting, Mike. You know who starts it? They play at 34. You know who starts at inside backer? Old friend Eric Wilson. You might remember him. He did not play well here with the Eagles.
All right. Yes, I do kind of remember him not playing well. That's what I remember.
No, not at all.
Out of Catholic football and football. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, but when they pass, the only receiver to really do well against them, and he got them, is DK Metcalf. Did very well, 126 and a touchdown in week 4 against the Vikings, and Metcalf in his first year with the Steelers. But the thing that you have to do, though, Mike, is you have to protect. You're going to see Dallas Turner, a first-round pick last year. Jonathan Gordard is terrific, coming over from the Texans, very underrated edge rusher. We mentioned Hargrave. We know one thing he does well is he rushes the passer really well. So no blitz. And listen, Hurts and the offensive line, they've got to be on point, because Brian Flores runs the most sophisticated defense. He's very unpredictable. You never know quite what he's going to do. You might remember 2 years ago when they played at Philly, he decided to have one of the lightest boxes that you'll ever see against Hurts and the Eagles, and they got run over. It's really weird. He didn't adjust in that game. Now, since then, he's been great, Brian Flores. But their defense has not been lights out either. So, and then Josh Metellus, who's sort of like their wild card safety, number 44. He's a really good player. Theo Jackson, by the way, number 26, was a special teamer. Now he starts at safety when needed. But and Harrison Smith, of course, is he's 36 years old at safety, Mike. That's hard to believe.
All right, well, that's a look at the Vikings defense, which I would imagine, this is a very difficult defense to go against in terms of the looks you'll get, but there is some meat that you can peel off the bone there. You can run the ball against this team, but they are good against the pass. We'll see. What about flipping it the other side? The Eagles defense, especially if Quinyon Mitchell is not ready to play, that could be a problem, but the Vikings perpetually offensive line issues.
Now, here's what happened, Mike. They've been starting a number of backups lately. That certainly has been a problem. Darrisaw's back at left tackle, number 71 from the ACL injury. Brian O'Neill, the right tackle's got a knee injury. He's starting to work this week. So they're optimistic there. Ryan Kelly, their center, is out. Second concussion, he's on IR. The backup did not play last week, but they're more optimistic that the kid will play, and they have a new left guard. So this is where, look, we know the Eagles' pressure has not been great. We got Jalen Carter is going to play. It's just, can he be himself? See, that's another problem with this defense. When Carter's played, he's not played to the level of last year because he's been hurt. He's had the shoulder injury, recurring issue, that pops up since college, since Georgia, and the heel injury. He was not ready last week. He made that pretty clear when he talked to the media. And Andrew DiCecco was in the locker room. Andrew said that when he was talking to him. So that's the deal here. But they have a vulnerable offensive line, the Vikings do. This is where the Eagles have to win because, Mike, as you mentioned, if Quinyon Mitchell cannot play, I know he's working again today, but he's not taking the majority of the reps. He's got to be able to play. That tomorrow's a big day for him. This could get super ugly. Keeley, Ringo, and Jackson will be your starters. Now, I know, Mike. I joked on our post-game show with Jeff and I said, listen, he's going for 150 to 200, Justin Jefferson. That's happening.
And they've done a good job against him generally in the past.
I know, but exactly, I know that. But this is different, though. You always, context matters. Look who Jerry Slave's no longer here.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a different deal, Mike. This could be an absolute nightmare. Adam Thielen's back as a slot receiver. Hawkinson's good. Addison's really good. You know they're going to run. They'll bounce back from 12 or 11 personnel. They're really deep at tight end and receiver. But they're an absolute nightmare, Mike. This could get super ugly. Now, Mac McWilliams, one more thing before I get out of here. He didn't play last week. They got to have him up. I know he's a smaller guy. He had a very good training camp. What they need to start taking a look at that guy. He's a player.
Yeah, I
know he's more of a nickel, but he's got to play.
I agree there. I like Mac McWilliams and was surprised that he's been inactive and hasn't helped out with this, especially with the problems they have. Next week, they might get Ja'Cory and Bennett back. Some of these injured guys could be back on the practice field next week, so that could give them some help. But tough game this week against – you think it's going to be Carson Wentz or McCarthy?
Nothing official. More Wentz than McCarthy. But here's the thing, though. Wentz has a left shoulder injury. He played great, by the way, against the Browns. He finished with he got hurt early in the third quarter or late in the second quarter. I can't remember, but anyway, he finished the game. But he's taken more of the first team reps so far than McCarthy. We'll see what today's practice is. In fact, the Vikings had their practice after the Eagles do, so we won't have their injury report for a little bit.
All right, Adam Kaplan, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com. You can get the Inside the Birds podcast on all podcasting platforms. Just search Inside the Birds right here on the Sports Bash. Pinch hitting for DiCecco. DiCecco will be on tomorrow's show. Adam, thanks for popping on today.
You got it. Thanks.
There is. And Football at 4 is a staple of the show, and you just heard some of the stuff that we'll be looking at all week long. Tomorrow, by the way, our outside view of the Minnesota Vikings. We'll talk to former All-Pro offensive lineman Bryant McKinney, who will join us. Yes, right? Jersey guy.
Miami, University of Miami?
University of Miami, but I believe he played his high school ball down here in South Jersey somewhere. Where did he go to, let's see here real quick. Bryant McKinney. Josh, do you have a guess?
Josh does not have a guess, but Woodbury High.
Woodbury.
Yes.
There you go.
What is it actually?
I was saying Brian McKinney played high school football in South Jersey somewhere. I just couldn't remember where, and we found out that it was Woodbury, so not too far from here.
Well, I would have guessed wrong then.
Yeah, all right. But Brian McKinney is the host of the Believe in Vikings podcast.
Maybe you get some University of Miami questions, too, maybe at the end.
Oh, I know Josh has Gino Torretta on this week.
Oh, there you go.
On Hanging with Henny, right?
Yeah, I'd like to hear about that team that he was on with Ed Reed and Vilma and all those guys.
Well, a couple things on Football at 4 real quick. One, I think the Eagles' ability, if they can't run the ball this week, as Adam pointed out there, they have given up a chunk of yards on the ground. You've got to establish a run early with this team and hope to break a big one, similar to your plan that you had last year, where you were able to run the ball effectively and then your explosive play came on the ground. They have not given up a lot of yards in the air. And the one thing that worries me when you look at this team in the Eagles is I hope that they don't, again, try to force the pass. Establish the run early, get yourself the lead, and then run the game out. This is a smaller front from the Vikings, and the Eagles did that against them. We talked about this yesterday in the game they played them in 2023. DeAndre Swift had 200 yards rushing the game. They ran the ball 48 times against the Vikings in the game in 2023. Find that tape and put it back on, because it is a defense that Brian Flores ran in 2023 that you could probably go after in a similar fashion and have some success this time around. So run the ball against this team and get yourself that early lead, and hopefully what becomes of that is some crisp blocking up front and some confidence in the run game.
Because you mentioned it, forcing the pass, this would be 3 weeks in a row where they kind of not focus on the run and they just try and force that pass.
And it's been brutal watching this offense. I know it's not been a lot of fun, and I don't think it's going to be fun this week again. But if you start running the ball, like they didn't pass the ball in the playoff wins. I mean, they had in the game against Green Bay, in the game against the Rams in the snow, right? They weren't throwing the ball all over the yard. They had big Saquon runs. You got to get this offensive line in a cohesive unit. You got to get them blocking up front cohesively. And Baldy talked about it earlier, the fact that they're not getting the same push from some of these guys. Doesn't mean they're not playing well. They're just not, pushing their guy as far off the line of scrimmage as they were last year in terms of, he mentioned Becton as a guy that they're really missing him.
And Dickerson, I know he's hurt.
Dickerson did practice today.
He did practice, but is that the type of injury that's just going to affect him all year long? And you talk about Jalen Carter, same thing. Are these guys just going to be banged up for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think it's a question that a lot of people wonder about Landon Dickerson. People thought with Landon Dickerson, just let him sit out last week, which he did. This week,
they thought they could get by.
They thought they could get by the Giants, and then you play the Giants again next week. So sit him out. If you beat the Giants last week, okay. If I lose on the road to Minnesota, not the biggest deal in the world. But then we play the Giants again, and then there's a bye week. That would have given him 4 straight weeks.
That's almost like an IR stint, really.
Exactly.
If I could ask you guys a question about something that Baldy said, because Mike, you brought up kind of what I was going to go ask you, which is Baldy is not the first person to bring up how this team misses Mekhi Becton. Is there potentially a mistake by the Eagles organization when it comes to evaluating the guys on this O-line? Like, they legitimately thought that Tyler Steen could replace him. And I have now heard multiple people say that Tyler Steen is nowhere as good as Becton was last year. So is this an oversight by the Eagles?
I don't know about that, because the one thing that Baldy did say was, they knew that it was pretty much going to be a one-year thing. He got a lot of money to go out to L.A. and play with the Chargers, which, by the way, I think he's been kind of banged up out there, right?
He has been injured out there, yeah.
And that's been kind of the problem with him, and I think the Eagles
Chargers,
kind of looked at it.
By the way, the Chargers offensive line is just, if not more, injured than the Eagles is.
It's been one of the reasons you say, how did the Chargers lose to the Giants? Well, one of the reasons they lost to the Giants is they got offensive line problems. The Chargers' offensive line is breaking down. Yeah, I mean, I definitely – and a lot of people that I've asked about Steen, they've all said, he hasn't played bad. It just – Becton was really good.
And, again, Jeff Stoutland's the guy, right? Maybe it's not all on Howie. Maybe it is Stoutland Maybe
Did they trust Jeff Stoutland too much?
Isn't it funny? Stoutland could do no wrong.
Maybe he just got it wrong. Maybe
until
he
does.
Maybe he got Steen wrong. And
Brett Toth.
Toth is another one.
The Toth thing, I think a lot of people are surprised by that he was the guy that's getting that opportunity.
But he's the guy the coaching staff loves.
Which is odd, because there's been opportunities in the past to play him, and they really haven't. So is it that he is – some people have mentioned who's the guy they drafted last year who's hurt? Keegan?
Oh, Trevor. Well, Trevor Keegan was let go
from the Rams, right?
No, they drafted a couple guys. I mean, I'm missing one of the guys that they drafted.
Who's the center they signed from the Rams? He was on IR. They signed him.
He's still on IR.
Yeah, that was the one that everybody thought that there was some dirty play involved there because he was injured.
Yeah.
They really fudged the lines there for that one.
Well,
so he's not going to be.
I think the Matt Pryor thing, and the Eagles are so tied to what side you play on. The Matt Pryor thing, we talked about this yesterday. You make a play or you make a signing, you get Matt Pryor. He was starting last year in Indianapolis, or he has started in the past for Indianapolis.
Right.
And it's you sign a guy who was a starter someplace else, and now he's your backup, and you're thinking, this guy was good enough to start somewhere, and we're not even going to use him. Well, until you have to use them, and you realize, man, that's a big drop-off right there. So you got Matt Pryor, Willie Lampkin's the guy you're talking about.
Right.
He's on the injured list, by the way. Matt Pryor, who is now the backup right guard, and then Brett Toth is the backup left guard, and you're seeing a big drop-off when both of those guys have to play. And that's been one of the problems. They've had to play too much. All these guys have had to play too much. Dickerson's been out. You got to go to Toth. Steen's gone out. You got to go to Pryor. Lane Johnson's missed parts of 2 games, and you had to go to first Pryor, then Fred Johnson. So major problems up front on the offensive line, and it's
And the one thing that Baldy said, the stat that he read off in the beginning of the interview about Barkley and how he's just getting hit at the line of scrimmage. He's not getting, 4 yards here, and then he gets contacted. It's really early on in the play, and that's really impacting the running game.
Mike,
609
are you referring
403 0973.
Are you referring to Cameron Williams?
No, he was drafted this year. This guy was drafted. Oh, Dylan McKinnon's the other guy that they drafted last year. Now, was he went to the Rams.
You mean Dylan McMahon?
Dylan McMahon.
He was the
No,
guy.
he
He was drafted last year, and now he's on the Rams.
Yeah, he went to the Rams. There was
Gotcha.
somebody. There was somebody. So Keegan, where is Keegan now?
Keegan's in Dallas.
Man, we were talking about. I could have sworn we were talking about this with Mosher the other day.
I'm going through their practice squad and injured reserve right now, trying to see if I can decipher who you're talking about.
Well, Keegan they drafted, and they're both gone. So both of those guys are no longer.
Right, they
the two
are
guys they
out of
drafted
here.
last year are both gone.
Correct.
And the one guy they traded for with CJGJ's.
Oh, they also drafted Miles Hinton. He's on injured reserve but designated to return.
Yeah, but Hinton is a tackle, and Cam Williams is also a tackle.
Right.
I'm talking about a guy that they drafted to play guard. That
I
was
mean-
an interior offensive line, because that's where they've had their depth issues has been at. Now, Mosher's usually listening to the show, and they'll usually text us. And he's not listening during his own segment.
Must not be, yeah.
Not today.
Sports Pass Live 97.3
The one
ESPN.
day. The one
well,
day.
He texted me earlier when we were talking about Dombrowski.
Drew Kendall from Boston
Drew
College.
Kendall they drafted this year.
But he's
He's
healthy.
a center, and he's a center. It might have been he was saying that they had Keegan and McMahon, and both of those guys got hurt, and then so because they got hurt, they got put on the practice squad, and then they got picked up by somebody else. But
Because they drafted 3 offensive linemen, Kendall, Hinton, and Cameron Williams.
hey, don't forget, we're live at Chickies and Pete's in Egg Harbor Township. 2 seats at the bar just opened up.
Oh, actually, there's a beer, though, sitting.
Oh, there he comes. He's
that
replacing
seat is
the
reserved.
Spoke too soon.
And we got to give a shout-out to our guy, Shaner, who stopped out, and I gave him the link to watch the show.
Oh, that was Shaner?
Yeah, he texted in. He said, I'm here watching the show.
Oh, good man.
And, well, the bar's full. He got a
Sure
seat at the
is.
bar, I'm assuming. Everybody's backs to us, so I can't really tell where anybody is. But, Shaner, if you're watching or listening, just raise your hand. All right? Sports Bass Live, 97.3. Hey, there's that guy over there. Hey, stop out for tonight's Thursday Night Football. Looking for a place to watch the game? Right here, Thursday Night Football. Got Thursday Night. There he is. Shaner. You got Thursday Night Football. So he's only about a 10-second delay over there. Thursday Night Football tonight here at Chickies. Flyers tonight at Chickies.
Game 3, right?
Game 3 of the Brewers and Dodgers at Chickies. More Sports Bash on the way. Nick's Nuggets are coming up. We'll see what Nuggets thinks about the 2 pressers today. He was texting me during the pressers today.
I'm sure he's very angry.
Ooh. That's coming up next. Nick's Nuggets. Don't go away. More Sports Bash coming up, 97.3 ESPN. We are live at Chickies and Pete's. Yo, got the games tonight. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to go, probably a little baseball will be at the top of my.
These ratings came out for the playoffs so far. Highest rated in I think, 10 years, the postseason.
Loving it. Loving now, tonight will be, Toronto won last night.
They won in home run fashion.
Yeah, they were crushing the Mariners. Last I saw was 12-2 when I turned it off.
Yeah.
But tonight will be like the last, if the Dodgers win tonight will be like the last high-level game in that series. So I'm going to be in on that game tonight. Flyers as well. I'll flip to the Flyers. By the way, if you're looking for the Flyers tonight, that will be on our sister station, Rock 104.1, Flyers and the Jets. Not Benny and the Jets, Harry, but the Winnipeg Jets. All right, time for the Nuggets right now. They're brought to you by The Hub, gear that works as hard as you do. Nick Earnshaw is the host of the Shift podcast, and, of course, you hear him right here during the Nuggets weekends. You'll hear him in the locker room. And, of course, Earnshaw Radio. What's up, Nugs?
What's going on? Is anyone else as frustrated as I am? I mean, just today was just an utter disaster. An utter disaster from the GM and the manager. I mean, my goodness, I can't believe you guys. You guys got to be as frustrated as I am. You have to be at least close, because my goodness, there was some.
If I believe half the stuff they said, I'd be frustrated.
Yeah, I don't believe everything they're saying. I don't.
So then why are you so frustrated?
Right.
Because I want to hear something a little bit more sense of urgency.
You want them to bang the table, right?
You want them to tell you to. You want them to tell you to like bloom the flower.
Something.
Is that what you want it?
I need a little bit more. I need a little bit more of sense of urgency from Dave Dombrowski. The window is closing. Do we not get this? I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that at all.
He's trying to sell you a used car, huh?
Yeah, I mean, that's a perfect analogy right there, PG. I mean, today, listen, we got to go through. I took notes, detailed notes.
I want to hear it. I want to hear what has you irked today.
I
See
mean,
if I
my
agree
goodness.
with you or not.
First of all, the GM does not have faith in Bryce Harper. Dave Dombrowski just does not have.
I did not take that from what he said.
I did. Do you want me to read the quote? I'll read the quote for you.
I mean, I know what he said. He said he wasn't an elite player this year. Can he still be that? We'll have to see. I don't think he told a lie.
Yeah,
was
that's
he an
not
elite
great.
player this year?
What's elite? Top 5, top 10?
That's the face of the
what?
franchise.
So you rather have him lie? If he would have came out and said,
he did plenty
we
of
still
that.
think Bryce is an elite player. He had an elite year. You would say, why did he say that? He didn't have an elite year. He came out and told you the truth, and now you're mad.
No, I did not like the phrasing of that entire thing around Bryce Harper. You got to have confidence in the face of your franchise. What's that say about Bryce? What's that say? So, with that,
I thought it was
Harper, and he did have a miserable year.
I thought it was
good.
I thought it was refreshing that the guy basically told the truth. He
That
said
shows he doesn't have confidence in him. That to me showed he did not have confidence. He does not have confidence in Bryce Harper that he can get to that level
looked
again.
disinterested for the last 3 months of the season.
I agree.
Let's be honest.
I agree. That shows he doesn't have confidence in Bryce Harper there. That's what that showed
I didn't take
me.
it as he didn't have confidence. I thought he was being real. He said, look, he wasn't the elite player but we still think that he could be that. Now, is he? I don't know. Time will tell. He compared him to Freddie Freeman. I thought that was a very good comparison. A guy who was an MVP level player, but he's not that player anymore. And he's saying, look, he wasn't elite this year. I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
That showed a lack of confidence in the face of your franchise. It's not like we're talking about a key player or anything like that. We're talking about the face of the franchise. It showed, don't have a ton of confidence him being that same player or getting to that level again. That's not good. All right, then we have the comments from Rob Thomson on Bryson Stott. And I texted you, and I think you said it earlier and brought it up. They think, and Rob Thomson seems to think, and we've talked about this plenty, that he can hit left-handed pitching and that he could play every day. So why not fight for him, Rob? We know all the decisions come from upstairs, but why not fight for your player a little bit here? If you knew and think, if you gave him every day at bats, and could help this team every single day. I know Edmundo has the numbers against lefties. I understand that. But why not give the guy a shot again? Why not? That was frustrating.
Maybe he did fight for him.
Who knows? Not hard enough.
That.
Not hard enough.
By the way.
Because it showed he wasn't in the lineup.
The problem is, though, Sosa is good against lefties. That's why he has to play. He's better.
Yeah, Sosa did a good job against lefties. Yeah, I mean, I read that a little bit as Topper saying, well, look, I think he can hit lefties, but I might not be able to play him against lefties because we have another guy who's doing the job and they want to get him playing time as well. But he was suggesting, I thought anyway, that, he thought that he thank you, sir. Those clanks you heard were somebody buying us a drink over here. Yeah,
you're gonna need one after that press conference.
He was suggesting that he thought he could play every single day, and that they have another player though as Edmundo Sosa. It's not like Sosa. See, this is the thing. It would be one thing if they had a guy that was like the platoon in center field at the beginning of the year, where Marsh wasn't hitting and neither was Rojas. The guys at second base, Sosa was doing the job, so there was no reason to fight the platoon.
But that just shows another lack of confidence in Bryson Stott. If you think he could hit lefties, why not give him a shot? They didn't give him that shot at all. So why come out and say it? That was frustrating. All right, then we get to Justin Crawford. I mean, we had glowing reviews of Justin Crawford. Why didn't anyone ask him why wasn't he brought up this year? Why was that at the beginning?
I said that at the beginning of the show. Nobody asked why. So if you're telling me, he said hit 340, he did everything that was asked. Okay, then why was he not under consideration to help a team this year that needed help in the outfield? I thought that was a question that could have been asked. And by the way, they had a 50-minute press conference with Dombrowski and a 40-minute press conference with Thomson, and nobody asked that particular question. Okay, you keep talking about Crawford, and he did everything. Why did you not? Was he ever under consideration to get a shot?
Yeah, I thought that was
that one I
very
agree with. I agree with that, but that's not on what Thomson and Dombrowski. I thought
that's on what they said last year. They said last year that Crawford and in Clearwater, they said Crawford and Painter are going to be up with the club this year. That was a mistake by them to put expectations.
I don't remember them saying
guys.
Crawford. I do remember them obviously saying Painter was going to be up in July was the timeline. I don't remember them saying Crawford. Did I miss that?
I think they had confidence that he could and possibly could come up, but it was more so on the Painter side of things, right? Like they thought Painter was going to be up this year. They thought that for
was
sure.
A mistake, yeah.
Yeah. And giving everybody the expectation that we're going to bring up the young guys.
I do want to go back to the Stott thing real fast.
Yeah.
They did give him a chance to face lefties, and he was horrible. And that's why they
didn't give him today?
They didn't give him – well, because if you heard what he said, Thomson said that in the second half of the year they made an adjustment to his hands, and they thought that his at-bats in the second half against lefties were much better. The problem was by that point, Sosa had already established himself as the better option. So he did say that his at-bats against lefties got better in the second half of the year because they made an adjustment.
So then what do you do next year? That's the question. Then are you going to give him that shot to start next year? That's the question. Then are you going
What's the difference?
Are you going to give him a shot against lefty?
What's the difference, though? If Bryson Stott's not an everyday player and it's him and Sosa, they're still, is that?
But he was
the difference in them beating the Dodgers?
I think if Bryson Stott was hitting, this would elevate this offense for sure. He started hitting towards the end of the year a little bit more, but he was supposed to be an everyday guy. I mean, this guy was compared to Chase Utley when he came up. He had that stretch where he was really good. I'm not saying they were right. But this is
like,
what
seriously,
he was,
though, like if Bryson Stott plays every single day, what is that doing for this team? That's not already happening. It's not like Sosa stinks. That if Sosa was hitting 220 in his opportunities, I would agree. But it's not like Stott is mediocre against righties and then Sosa stinks against lefties. Sosa's done a really good job. So I don't understand.
Yeah, why can't Sosa play against righties?
Like playing Stott every day is not really doing anything here.
I am talking about the expectation they set with Bryson Stott in the beginning. He had the expectation
they're off
of
on
being
those
an everyday player. And then they're doubling down. That's essentially doubling down on Stott, saying, hey, we think he's an everyday player. Well, they're not showing you that. They haven't shown you that because then Mundo has been good.
They don't need to show him, though. And quite frankly, another thing, like, hey, at the end of the year, I don't want to say, well, we view him as a platoon player. No, I think he can play every day. Well, you're not playing every day. But playing him every day is not changing anything. That's my point is I can understand your point of view if you said Sosa was not holding up his end of the bargain and that they're really struggling against left-handed pitching on days when Sosa plays. But that's not the case.
He's the better option.
Sosa's doing a fine job.
I'm not saying he's not. I'm saying that Stott was originally supposed to be an everyday guy. He was, and they're doubling down, but he hasn't been. Okay,
so why keep saying in 4 years into his career, we're seeing that he's not what they thought he was going to be. There's no crime in that. At least they're recognizing it.
He's hitting ninth.
But then they're doubling down on it. They're doubling down on it. That's what they're doing. I understand Sosa is going out there and he's producing. I'm not saying that. But if you think he's an everyday guy and can hit lefties, that's just not true. That's not true. You don't think that. They don't think that. Why come out and say it? That was frustrating. By
the way, against lefties, Stott hit 250 this year. Against righties, he hit 257. So he hit both guys, righties and lefties, about the same.
Yep.
So it doesn't sound like Thomson's off on this. He hits them both about the same. Again, I go back to you. You texted me and you said, then Thomson, why don't you play him? To which I said, maybe he does want to play him, but the lineup that he's been handed doesn't have him in the lineup.
That was my point originally. You got to fight for your guy. Fight for your guy then. All right, moving along. Next point.
And listen, by the way, I was listening to a podcast about this Monday or Tuesday, and they said that basically that most of these teams, that the way that they do it is the GM, whoever else, the manager,
analytics people, yep.
They all put together a lineup. And then the three of them take their three lineups and basically go off of those three and then make the decisions. Yep. But basically that's kind of the way that most of the teams run how they put their lineup together. So, again, maybe Thomson is putting Stott in the lineup. And to which Dombrowski kept saying, well, you're not going to put a lefty out there against Randy Johnson. Like, he's making it like the lefties in today's game, like you're not. Most lefties aren't facing these guys. So I don't know that. Put it this way. I don't know that you're going to see Stott play every day next year. And as long as Sosa's here, I don't think it really matters.
Yep. It was a fascinating equation that was added today that I couldn't get over. Couldn't get over it. But we move along to another.
Next?
We're one big nugget today with the Phillies, honestly. I had a couple other things going, but here we go. All right. Dombrowski said he was more heartbroken over 2023, which I agree with, than this year pretty much. He said they faced the wrong club in the Dodgers. Are they going to face the wrong club every year? Are they going to face the wrong club every year?
No, because they all admitted that, in fact, somebody brought up JT Realmuto, that he also said the same thing, is because they all, I think, in their minds, felt that the Dodgers were the better team. That they felt that they were the better team than the Mets were, and that's why that one hurts more.
Arizona.
And I'm saying, because they mentioned Arizona, he said that JT said last year hurt more because they felt that they were better than the Mets, and they talked about it.
But they weren't playing better.
They were not playing better, and that's what Topper said today. I thought our at-bats this year in the playoffs were much better than last year's at-bats against the Mets.
Well, guess what? They outscored them. They out-hit the Dodgers, everything, in the whole entire series, and still lost. It's like they're not winning on the margin.
Why would you not run it back? I mean, if you're looking at those numbers, of course you're going to bring back the same bunch of guys.
Well,
the problem is they're all getting older. Where are they going to be at?
That's the
next
one.
year?
Yeah,
that's the caveat that I feel like is being omitted from the press conferences today.
Well, and one of the things, like he mentioned, a lot of these teams that kept their cores together and then kept giving them runs at it, and the fact that they did win because they stuck with these teams. But that is where I think Dombrowski has really failed this team, is on the margins. We were talking about the sport. He signs Whit Merrifield. That didn't work out. Joe Ross, that hasn't worked out. These marginal guys, the guys that you get for $4 million or $8 million, they're not working out for you. You constantly are trying to say, hey, look, you got Whit Merrifield. He can play all over the place. He's exactly what you need, and he hasn't worked out for you. Joe Ross, he's a swing man. He can start. He can come out of the bullpen. He didn't work out for you. He did mention David Robertson won't be back at least for the start of the year. He said Robertson doesn't want to start. That's one thing that Topper did admit, that he said, I wish that, during the course of the year that they would have done a sit down and get back up for
Well,
David
Robertson was on his couch until July.
Yeah.
That didn't help.
Because he was asked, is there anything that you look back on, and wish you did differently? And he said, yeah, during the course of the year, maybe we would have got him up and sat him back down and then put him back. They never did that. That was the first time they asked him to do that all season long.
Yep. I mean, when you sign a guy, who's like Pete said, halfway through the year while he's sitting on his couch at 40 years old, it's not easy to just come into a playoff race and pitch well. So that was interesting. I also, listening to him talk about Jose Alvarado, saying he'd be surprised if he isn't back next year and picking up that option. I thought that was also an interesting little nugget from today. So you'd have the Alvarado and Duran 8th and 9th right there. I thought that was interesting that he gave a lot on Alvarado.
The way Topper talked about it, it sounded like he was bullish on bringing Alvarado back. It sounds like Topper wants it back. And Dombrowski did eventually, because at first he was kind of like, we haven't really talked about that. We have till 5 days after the World Series to make a decision there. And then, it sounded like both of them would like to bring. Look, because if you have Alvarado back, you have him from the left side who was kind of your closer. Now he's there to pitch the 8th inning. And then you have Duran who can pitch the 9th. So you have those two.
Now, who's your right-handed setup guy?
Yep. Who's that going to be?
Kirk Green's going to be interesting because both of them said they talked to Kirkering twice, right?
Yeah.
They both said the same thing. Well, I talked to him a couple times actually. I would imagine Kirkering is back only because he doesn't make any money.
No, I think he'll be back. I think they'll give him another shot. And then lastly, before we get out of here, I know we're running short on time. Dave Dombrowski had to step in on the Nick Castellanos and Rob Thomson situation.
Yeah,
that
Topper,
was fascinating. But Thompson took the high road.
I go say I thought Thomson handled that well in terms of what's your relationship. He says I think it's good, So it didn't sound like he was like, well, we'll see once we get to spring training. Topper feel a lot like me. It's like you don't like me, I don't care. That's your problem. If you don't like me, that's your fault.
I am who I am.
Yep.
And then Topper said that.
Yeah.
They said, are you going to change any of your manager styles? And he said, no, I am who I am. That's exactly what he said.
I'll tell you what, I'm not too mad at them bringing the entire coaching staff back because I don't think that's going to make much of a difference. It's on the margins, and I thought today that they have to address the margins, and they have to recognize, and I'm sure they do. They're just not saying it, but you would like to hear them say it, that they're getting older, and this window is really closing. That's it.
All right, there's today's Nuggets. By the way, we're going to do a full podcast on this tomorrow. Bob Wankel and I, the first edition of Now Batting for the Phillies, the podcast.
There it is.
I expect some good
tomorrow.
imaging on that. Maybe a little Dan Baker.
Possible. I'm going to see if Dan Baker will voice that for us. Check that out on all podcasting platforms. Nerdshaw Radio, when are you back on?
I'll be back Monday. I'm doing another MC event tonight. So.
Oh, boy. See you later.
See you.
All right, 5 o'clock, Casey Joyner. It's One Thought every game. We'll look at the Eagles and the Vikings. And One Thought every Week 7 game. It starts tonight with Steelers and the Bengals. You can listen to the game on 97.3 ESPN. Casey Joyner is brought to you by BMW of Atlantic City. Your luxury BMW experience is closer than you think. Take advantage of exceptional savings and experience luxury today at BMW of Atlantic City in Egg Harbor Township. We're live at Chickies and Pete's. Go where the players go. The A.J. Brown Sweet Heat Hot Wings are here, and you can get them along with the Jason Kelsey Garage 62 meal deal with a nice burger and a Garage 62 beer right here at Chickies and Pete's. We're in Egg Harbor Township, by the way, today. Normally, we're over in Atlantic City. We'll be back there next week with us, as always, on a Thursday. It's time for One Thought Every Game. Casey Joyner from The Athletic is here, and he is set to go through this week's schedule with a look at the Eagles and the Minnesota Vikings. This Vikings outfit with a new quarterback situation. But, you know, Casey, when we look at this Vikings team, you think right now of Brian Flores and his defense, and let's just start there. If you're the Eagles, who are struggling offensively, where do you look at this Vikings defense as a way that you can get yourself back on the positive side of things? Is there a place you can attack?
I looked at the Eagles and what's wrong with their offense for my one of my Monday morning articles at The Athletic, and found that defenses are running a lot more cover 2 than they did last year. Part of it has to do with Barkley's not getting a lot of breakaway runs, so that's what they're doing. And they're saying, please, go ahead, throw it. Try and see if you can get downfield. You don't want to throw a lot of passes against cover 2. Certain things you could do, but you don't want to force it and such. You really don't want to get aggressive vertically. So if I'm the Eagles, I tell you what, I don't know that I want to throw against this. A, for that reason, and B, because you can't pass block well, and C, because it's a Brian Flores defense, and he's really good at getting quarterbacks to make mistakes. So if I'm the Eagles, the Vikings run defense has been okay, but not great. Get Saquon in gear. You say you're going to run the ball, do it, and Saquon, start breaking some tackles. That's what I want to do if I'm the Eagles.
Well, you know, you look up front. Teams have run the ball against Minnesota. Bijan and Algier had a big night against them. We've seen other ones. I know Kenny Gainwell had a big day against them. Is there room to run this week against Minnesota?
In the last 4 weeks, Minnesota has allowed 13.6 fantasy points per game. And I use the fantasy point predictor, fantasy point numbers, and then carry them over to NFL analysis. That's 18th in the league. It's not a great number. They're only allowing 3.9 yards per rush, and I think if I had this, which is not very much, and again, Barkley's breaking tackles rate, by the way, it's down 40% per game over last year. It's not just a slight drop, it's a huge drop, so that's part of it. I might actually, it sounds crazy, I might mimic what Baltimore did last week, which is coaches will tell you, if you're going to run the ball, you got to be stupidly persistent with it. You got to run the ball. It's like, oh, you shouldn't run the ball. Yeah, you should. As long as the game score lets you do that, you should keep doing it. If I'm them, I really want to get Barkley going, give him the ball 25 times and say, Minnesota, you're going to have to bring that safety down. You're going to have to do things to stop the run. And again, get Barkley going. Tell him, unless he's injured or something, if he doesn't look like that, get him going and tell him, you need to break some tackles. Because if he starts doing that, I think it's a domino that makes everything else work, not only for this game, but going forward.
So the Vikings, they blitz a lot, third highest blitz rate in the NFL. But Jalen Hurts, that's been one area where he's been pretty good. Is that something that Philadelphia hopes that they do see a lot of?
Funny thing is, they've allowed it the last 4 weeks. They've been blitzed. The Eagles have 31.8% of times. That's a high number. If you're in the 30s, I don't know exactly where that ranks overall. But it's in like the top 8 in the league as far as highest percentage. It's a lot, and so they're used to doing it. Now, mind you, the Eagles are giving up 15 sacks in that time frame, which is terrible, and they're also giving up a decent amount of pass pressure, so that's part of it. But they're used to seeing it. Teams want to do that, and hey, the Eagles, if they want to, that's the only way the Vikings can get pressure, fine. And look, you've got Devontae Smith, you've got Goddard, you've got Brown, you've got guys who could turn short gains into long games. Give them a lot of hitches, give them a lot of slants, give them a lot of things like that, and say, you're going to have to come and stop our short game. We're not going to go vertical on you, which is, again, not usually what the Eagles try to do when they throw the ball. They do want to throw the ball vertically, but make them dink and dunk, and then go ahead and do that and say, because it's hard if you're a defense coordinator. Even if you're creative, it's hard to get a lot of pressures if you can get the short passes, and the Eagles have people to do it.
A.J. Brown, interesting. I want to get your take on how he fares in this game. 25 catches on 45 targets. He's only catching the ball less than 60% of targets his way. He has as many catches this season in tight windows as he does on open throws. So is this a week where he can win? Why is he's getting receptions, targets, but he's not making receptions. Why is his receptions down, but his targets are seemingly okay?
He's the guy who you want to play call him open with certain schemes, certain concepts, such as what you want to do to play call him. But he's not a guy. He's got the physical size to beat somebody, but he's not going to run past people. So if you go over play press coverage, you're going to be able to do something against him. And the thing is, if I'm the Eagles, I really want to start. I want to do a lot of man coverage stuff. I want to and say, okay, if you're going to run zone stuff, you can do a variety of things, but I would think if you're gonna blitz, you're gonna do a lot of man. So you're gonna blitz, you're gonna do all of man. We're gonna do a lot of crossing routes, do a lot of things like this, and get Brown open and say, hey, I don't want tight windows. I want you to throw you in tight windows. I want to make sure that when he gets man coverage, he'll probably line up against Byron Murphy Jr., who has okay metrics, but not great this year. In fact, the tougher matchup for the Eagles is Devontae Smith versus Josh Metellus, who's got some really good metrics this year. So if I'm the Eagles, I want to go to Brown there. But if they're going to do a lot of blitzing, fine. Do a lot of crossing routes, do a lot of picks, do a lot of things of that nature, and get Brown open. Hit him with a couple plays like that. Make him sit back in zone, and then you can start doing the zone beaters.
All right, up front, the Eagles' offensive line has been a little bit of a problem there, but how is the Viking pass rush this week? Should the Eagles be able to finally do what they've done in the past, is win with their offensive line?
The Vikings over the past 4 weeks, they got the third highest pass pressure rate in a percentage basis. They get a lot of sacks too. And like I said, they blitz a lot. That's why you want to make them pay for the blitz. Though I think the Vikings get the pass rush because they blitz, and it's an old Mike Zimmer thing. Old defensive coordinators will say if 3 won't get pressure, then bring 4. 4 won't bring pressure, get 5. If 5 won't get pressure, get 6. We're going to get pressure no matter what. That's the way the Vikings want to do it. But you're going to make them pay for that. Say, fine, you want to bring 5, we're going to make you pay for it. And the Eagles offense, if they outnumber you, it doesn't matter how good you block. If somebody's coming free, you got to be able to do it. That's why they have a lot of hot routes and a lot of side adjusts built in there to say, if you guys are going to do all this blitz, we're going to make you pay for it, because then you can get back to a situation where the offensive line, it's not a, as a tight end, it's not a 6-on-7 situation, or something of that nature where you're trying to, they're outnumbering you. You get to keep them in that situations.
Let's look at the Eagle defense and what they're up against, especially if Quinyon Mitchell does not play. Justin Jefferson, a handful for everybody, but they got more than just that.
They do, and Mitchell's had some terrific numbers this year. In fact, I did my every week for my start-sit chart for my Patriot service. I update the cornerback rankings, and remember Red being unfavorable for an offense, yellow being okay, green being favorable. I upgraded the Eagles because they had a bunch of yellow ratings on there, and Mitchell was one of them who got upgraded. Joey Jackson got upgraded. We look at his numbers over the past 4 weeks, his pass coverage numbers and all that, and he's doing very well. And mind you, they're doing well in a number of areas. The thing is, though, that if he's out, you're going to have, Jackson probably face Jefferson. Don't like that matchup, and I don't like anybody against Jefferson, but I'd like to see Mitchell against Addison. The other thing on the Eagles, though, Blankenship, the Eagles, as far as vertical passes over the past 4 weeks, they're 30th in fantasy points allowed on vertical passes. They're allowing too high of a completion rate, too high of a yards per attempt, too many touchdowns. They've got to really clamp down on that, and so they need a big game from Blankenship.
And then obviously the quarterback situation. Does one make Minnesota any more dangerous? You got McCarthy and Wentz.
McCarthy, I think, would run more, and you'd have an issue there. Personally, if I'm the Eagles, I'd like to see Wentz out there because he'll force passes. I think McCarthy, it's one of two things. Do you want turnovers, or do you want somebody who you can get to maybe get rattled and play it too safe? McCarthy will end up playing it too safe. I think he does not want to get picks. I think if he realizes if he gets a lot of them, they might go back to Wentz. But if you're Wentz, hey, what the heck? He's a Brett Favre type. Just going to throw a pass in the coverage. If I'm the Eagles, I might prefer to see Wentz out there because you could get more picks. But I think Fangio's going to have a game plan for either one and say, hey, if you're going to play too safe, I'm going to do this. And I think he's going to be very good there. So I like that matchup for the Eagles. They'll either not get any big plays against them, or they'll get some big plays for them.
All right, we'll get Casey Joyner's thought on who will win that game and why coming up in just a little bit here. Stick around for that. But right now, it's time for One Thought Every Game. We'll go through the Week 7 schedule, starting with tonight. You can listen to the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. It's the Steelers and the Bengals. Steelers win this game. They are way out in front in the AFC North. Bengals win. At least they're kind of creeping here. It doesn't look like Mike Tomlin's too happy about having to face Joe Flacco this week, although the Steelers are a 5.5-point favorite on the road.
Yeah, he should be. To trade inside your division like that, that's just, it makes you wonder if Cleveland did it just to kind of stick it to Pittsburgh. I think that's what he's getting at. If it's Flacco, the Steelers run defense, easily the best in the league. In fact, I look at all the categories I look at for making my picks for my Confidence Picks article at The Athletic, which you can find on my page at The Athletic. There's nothing that the Bengals are favorable in. So I think the Steelers are going to be able to shut down the run. They're going to get Flacco to pass, and hey, they'll be able to get some picks off that too because their coverage is fantastic, taking them big tonight.
All right, let's go one thought every game, London style. Actually, is this the last? Are they in London or someplace overseas?
Yeah, they're in London. Yeah, it's London.
They're in London. Yes, the Jaguars are playing. They have to be in London. It's Rams and Jags. Obviously, the Rams' offense struggled last week. The Jags had a loss last week too. So Rams 2.5 favorite in London this week, but their offense not what we saw earlier in the year. They got some some things happening there.
Yeah, and Puka, if he's out, Puka Nacua, he's got the ankle injury. It sounds like he's going to be out. I wrote an article on Monday at The Athletic about how Devontae Adams can take up some of that slack. There's a bleed over between the two. There's an overlap of what they do route-wise. So they can do some things. I think Brian Thomas Jr. can equal Adams' production, though. So it's the Wild Raiders pass rush. Los Angeles is good in that area where Jacksonville isn't. I'll take the Rams for the win, but it's in Jacksonville. They've got such that long. They're going all, it's either they're 9 hours off of their time frame, and Jacksonville's not. I'll take Jacksonville. It'll be close. I think Jacksonville might cover, but the Rams will win.
All right, one thought every game. Let's go to Saints and Bears. The Saints fight hard. They've been in every game, but the Bears look like they're starting to gain some confidence with the new coach here.
They do, and it's tough. Was DJ Moore going to play as the big injury issue? That could hurt, but yeah, Kent Phillips looks like he's going to be the first 4,000-yard passer in Bears history. The big issue for the Bears, or the big benefit of the Bears, they have fantastic special teams number, and the Saints are last in the league in special teams expected points added over the last 4 weeks by a wide margin. Their special teams are terrible, so I'll take Chicago.
That comment that you made is just wild, by the way, that he would be the first 4,000-yard passer in the history of the franchise in 2025. All right, one thought every game. Dolphins, Browns, two terrible teams. Browns, have a decent, pretty good defense. Dolphins are in complete disarray.
Dolphins have they're inept. They've got a lot of back and forth coaches versus players. That's always a terrible thing. Cleveland defense is talented, but I looked at their pass defense numbers. They're not as good as they had been. They're like regressing some. I know you've still got a talented defense, but I'm like, wow, these are a lot worse than I thought they'd be. And they've got Dylan Gabriel. I mean, as bad as the Dolphins are on offense, at least Tua has a certain level of proven talent. I haven't seen anything with Dylan Gabriel, so I'll take the Dolphins there because I think Gabriel is that bad.
Not a good game there. Kind of a stinker for this Sunday. Patriots, Titans, one thought every game. Patriots, obviously, Vrabel goes back to Tennessee. Patriots, a road 7.5-point favorite. There used to be a time where the Titans would be a home dog, and I would take them all the time. This might not be that time.
It's not, and Vrabel's been looking forward to this. You got to know he loves going down there, and he's got some guy in our chat room, or the Discord channel that we Discord chat we run every night for the Athletic, and it starts at 6:00 this evening. Free to join. Somebody called Drake May Costco Josh Allen. I thought that's such a perfect name, Costco Josh Allen, for what he is. He's that good. He's got the ability to be that good. Tennessee fired their head coach. By the way, his dad, their offensive line coach, he left too. So they only have to be able to leave the head coach. Now their offensive line's changing, and they've been called a den of dysfunction as one of the Athletic writers all the time. I'll take New England big.
He likes New England big on that one. One thought every game. Raiders and Chiefs. This game will be on our sister station, Rock 104.1. Chiefs a double-digit big favorite here. They finally look like themselves in the win over the Lions this week. And the Raiders, the Raiders are a weird team to figure out.
They are, and the thing is, I don't think it's bad coaching. I know, it's a situation there where Pete Carroll's Methuselah. I mean, he's really old, but he's doing very well. I don't think it's that. Geno Smith is just a turnover machine, and you can't have. If you have one turnover a game, if you throw one pick a game in the league today, it's too much, and he's throwing more than that in some games. You also have Mahomes being the NFL MVP odds leader. He's that good. And they get Rashee Rice back this week. And the Chiefs' pass blocking is a lot better. I think when you add it all up, I can see why the Chiefs are double-digit points.
All right, one thought every game. Let's go to Giants and Broncos. Giants, obviously, they beat the Eagles coming off the Thursday night. Broncos, they beat the Eagles. Now they'll face each other. Broncos coming back from London last week, but they don't get the bye. So could this be a sneaky Giant play? They're a 6.5-point dog.
And the Giants, had the Thursday night, the Thursday night game, so they're well rested, and the Broncos had to come back. That is a factor. It's definitely something that's okay. Hey, I don't think the Broncos will play quite at their level. Scatty Boo and Dart are doing really well, and they've been very entertaining. But Denver may have the best pass rush or best rush defense in the NFL. They definitely have the best pass rush in the NFL. Their pass rush numbers are off the charts good. So it's a little bit of I'll take the Broncos comfortably, but they could be favored by a lot more for that traveling distance.
I remember last year you were on the Broncos there with that team. They made the playoffs. This would be a fun game to watch. Giants and Broncos. All right, Panthers and the Jets here. Obviously, Panthers fun game last week. Jets, not a fun game last week. The Jets are really bad.
Can't understand that. The last I checked, Carolina's a 1.5-point favorite. That's it? And now it's a road game from like, really? They're well coached. They're well motivated. I know their metrics aren't great, but they got Dowell and Hubbard. They're going to have a 1-2 combination. They're getting efficient play from Bryce Young. New York, their pass rush and pass blocking numbers. I mean, I do a grade on a curve for those things. They skew the curve. They're that bad. They're just, they're like, wow, these are abysmal numbers. And plus, their play call at the end of last week, and players, do they think the coach can do one more? Yeah, I'm not going to take the Panthers in a runaway, but I'm going to take them comfortably.
All right, one thought every game. Casey Joyner from The Athletic. Let's go to the Colts and the Chargers. This is a fun game all of a sudden. Chargers, some people think this might be the best team in the AFC. Chargers, people thought that this could be one of the best teams. They got some problems on the offensive line.
They do, and they're going to get Quentin Johnson back this week, which helps. And they got McConkey in a big game last week. And Kamadi Vidal, everybody picked up Hassan Haskins, and I did too. But I was mentioning to my subscribers, like, you really ought to think of Vidal too, because they're going to platoon. I was just thinking he's going to get going to split the carries. He's the lead back. Vidal, they're putting Haskins as they're getting like 5 to 6 carries. Vidal's going to be the lead back, so they've got somebody there. But the Colts, they got JT. They've got Daniel Jones, who can run this week, because the Chargers run defense. They like people to run against them, and they do, but they do it successfully, which is not what you want if you're trying to get run defense going. So I think the Colts will run the ball pretty well. I'll take them for the upset here.
All right, one thought every game. NFC East, this game will be on 97.3 ESPN after the Eagles and Vikings will take you to the Commanders and the Cowboys. Big one. If the Commanders win, they kind of stay within a game, potentially could tie Philadelphia. If the Cowboys win, the NFC East becomes really interesting. Commanders are a road favorite here.
Yeah, and when I went into breaking down the game, I figured, okay, I'm going to play the Commanders comfortably because the Cowboys, their defense is so bad, but probably get CD back this week. George Pickens, I did analysis of him in that Monday article at The Athletic, and what he does right, he's taken up the slack of what CD does. I don't think they're going to go back to what they did early on, where CD gets 2/3 of the targets and Pickens gets 1. I think you're going to even him out because he's that good. The thing is, the Cowboys get in the scoreboard shootouts, and the Commanders don't fare very well against that. They're 1-2 in scoreboard shootouts this year. The Cowboys are 1-1-1. It could easily be 2-1. So when I add CD Lamb getting back there, and you see, okay, Debo's hurt, and McLaurin's hurt, I'm going, okay, if I'm going to go scoreboard shootout and Dallas is healthy and Washington isn't, I'll take the Cowboys.
All right. By the way, Cowboys are a lot of fun offensively. They are awful defensively. And when they get CD back, that should even make them even more fun to watch. Okay, Packers and Cardinals, one thought every game. Packers going on the road, 6.5-point favorite for Green Bay in this one. And the Cardinals, after a fun start for them, obviously Murray got hurt. You had Brissett last week, and the Packers are almost a touchdown favorite on the road.
Yeah, when you're talking, I'm getting inquiries from fantasy managers. Do I keep Michael Carter or do I pick up Van Knight? That's what the Cardinals are down to in their backfield. Like, oh, wow, you're really, you're getting deep down in the depth chart there. They might not have Marvin Harrison for this game. Kyler Murray's also banged up. The Packers are much healthier. And frankly, they're just much better in many categories before factoring for injuries. I don't like when teams go to Arizona, because a lot of times it's the West Coast game. It's down south, Southwest, and teams don't seem to be themselves when they get out there. So I'm not going to take them by a big amount, but I see very few passes going for Arizona. Take a Green Bay.
Yeah, no atmosphere when you get out there, right?
No.
It's kind of blah. One thought every game, Falcons and Niners. This is on 97.3 ESPN. This is the Sunday night game. Falcons, obviously, they looked impressive. They beat the Bills. Can they do it on the road across the country this time? And a win here by the Falcons, you might have to take them serious.
I take their defense serious. Again, I was running numbers this week and seeing their defensive numbers going, whoa, I thought they had a solid defense, but they're, I'm not saying they're the Broncos. I'm not saying they're that good, but they're top 10, and they're pushing towards top 8, top 7. I mean, they're playing that well. The 49ers on the flip side, the 49ers have, I talked about the Jets pass rush metrics. The only reason they were worse in the league is the Niners are even worse. And you would think the Niners have bad pass rush metrics. They have atrocious pass rush metrics. Atlanta has a strong pass rush. They got Bijan, but the Niners might get Purdy back. They'll likely get Kittle back. They might get Purdy back. And McCaffrey, why we're not talking about him as an MVP candidate, I have no clue. It's the only reason they're doing as well as they are. So real close game. I'm going to take San Francisco by a very small margin, but it's a coin flip.
I'll tell you what, if the Falcons' defense is as good as you're saying, with the weapons they finally have on with Bijan and Algier and Drake London and Kyle Pitts, and if the quarterback can play, that team could be in dark horse in the NFC playoff field. I don't know about a Super Bowl team, but just to make the playoffs. I don't think people are even looking at them in that capacity right now. All right, Monday Night Football game number 1. Bucks and Lions. That game's on 97.3 ESPN. Lions did not look good in their last game in prime time. Bucks have looked good all year, yet the Lions a pretty big 5.5-point favorite here.
Mike Evans might play. Godwin won't. Ibuka won't. Irving won't, at least the last check, so maybe something happens, but look like those 3 are out. So if you're the Bucks, I mean, you're getting down to Tez Johnson thinking he's getting the MVP chance, and that's good, but that's how good Baker Mayfield is. And he's going to go up against the Lions secondary. Terry Arnold and Vontae Maddox are not playing well. Brian Branch is going to be out. They've got a really bad secondary. But I just keep looking at this going, okay, if it's going to go scoreboard shootout mode, it's Tez Johnson still, and the Lions still have some talent in their secondary. I'm looking at going, that's who you're going to in K-Dot, and that's who you're going up, and they're going against Amon-Ra St. Brown, and the Bucs have a good backfield, but St. Brown and Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs and Laporta and all those guys that they have. I just like scoreboard shootout to take Detroit.
Tez was fun last week. He was wondering why people were chanting MVP for him. He says, I only have 6 catches this season. They were cheering for Baker Mayfield.
He meant that so well, too. When you see the clip, he's like, you could see he wasn't trying to be arrogant about it. He just honestly thought they were
Yeah, no, he did not. He thought they were really cheering for him. All right, one thought every game. Let's go to Texans and Seahawks. This is the second Monday Night Football game. This game will also be on 97.3 ESPN. Seattle, another team you got to start thinking about. They're 4-2 out there. And the Texans, C.J. Stroud saying today, hey, we think we've found our identity.
The Texans are pass blocking better. I didn't think I'd say that all year, but you look at the numbers like, whoa, they're middle of the pack. I mean, I didn't expect them to be, that good. I thought they'd be really far down. I was like, yeah, okay, they've learned how to do that. That's really good. And they can't run the ball very well, though. I mean, Woody Marks was good a couple weeks ago, but they've got some run issues, and they don't have enough talent in their passing game, but you can count on them a little bit more. But the thing that stands out here, the Seahawks had 3 players missing in their secondary. They had a safety and 2 of their corners were missing 2 weeks ago, and they got destroyed against Tampa. Had the same problem last week, and they held Jacksonville in place. I think they're learning how to deal with those injuries, and they may get some of those players back. So if they've got that, and they're at home, and the Texans don't have a great passing attack, they don't have Baker Mayfield, they don't have that kind of attack to attack them, I'll take Seattle because I think Mike McDonald will figure out how to work around those injuries.
All right, one thought every game. Let's finish up with the Eagles and the Vikings. Casey Joyner, there's a lot in this game. The Eagles are struggling. Obviously, the Vikings defense, they've got Justin Jefferson against possibly a banged-up secondary. One thought every game, how does the Eagle-Viking game go?
Well, I mean, Flores is the difference, I think, because when the Eagles' offense is playing as bad as it is, and again, Barkley doesn't have the breakaway skills and looking at a lot of things, I could see past for the Eagles to win this one. But Flores is a big difference maker, and Fangio's defense, and I'm a big Fangio guy. I think he's a very, very, very good defensive coordinator. But not seeing it this year, they're struggling. There's some of the coverage metrics being better. They're not getting a pass rush. They're not doing a lot of things. Parker's not got breakaway skills. We're just seeing too many places where the Eagles just aren't playing to that level, and the Vikings are still playing closer to their talent level. And I think they'll probably start McCarthy, and I just trust what they're going to be able to do offensively. I'm going to take the Vikings by a small amount at home, even though I think the Eagles are probably the more talented team.
Vikings at home. Wow. 3 straight losses that would be for the Philadelphia Eagles. Casey Joyner from The Athletic is back on Tuesday to recap all of these games with one thought every game. And, of course, you can check him out at The Athletic for all of his NFL coverage and right here on the Sports Bash. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, Casey Joyner, everybody, here every Thursday. He is brought to you by BMW of Atlantic City and, of course, your exceptional luxury today at BMW of Atlantic City. Your BMW experience is closer than you think. All right, coming up next, we will talk more about this game. Adam Amin from Fox, he's going to be on the call this Sunday at 1 o'clock. Who's he calling it with? Greg Olson? He's filling in
Greg
for
Olson, yep.
Right, he's filling in for Joe Davis for the baseball. I kind of like Adam Amin on baseball.
And that game starts in about, a half hour from now, Dodgers-Brewers.
Who do you like better, Joe Davis or Amin?
I'm going Amin.
I'm a big Amin
big
guy.
fan of that guy.
I do like Joe Davis on his big calls, but I think the course of the game is a little too monotone for my liking.
Amin
and
did.
Smoltz put me to sleep.
Amin did the Brewers game Saturday night,
Yeah.
and then you see him on the Panthers-Cowboys game Sunday morning.
And he's going to join the Sports Bash next on
There you
97.3 ESPN. All right, 5:33. We're live at Chickies and Pete's. Don't forget, go where the players go. The A.J. Brown Sweet Heat Wings. You getting them after the show, Pete?
Them and a beer.
Well, our guy Shaner, one of the listeners, stopped by. Shaner,
know.
he bought us both a drink. You said beer. I just said something. I don't know what I'm going to go yet. But I'll tell you what. You listen to our next guest, Adam Amin. He was in Milwaukee one night, and then we were Carolina the next day.
Cowboys game,
Cowboys Panthers.
Yeah.
That game was on. Now, I'm a guy, see, and Adam can appreciate this, I hope. I'm not a red zone guy. I'm watching the whole game. I want to hear the story. I want to go all the way through. I watched every snap of Cowboys and Panthers because that was the Fox game on here. I also watched the Brewer game the night before, so I got to hear Adam Amin not once but twice, and now a third time this week right here on the Sports Bash. He joins us. He's going to be on the call for Eagles and Vikings. Adam, welcome.
What's going on, brother? Good to talk to you, Mike.
Yeah, man, it's good to have you on, and I'm glad that you're getting the call here for this game. Great calls this weekend. You had that Cowboy-Panthers game, which was back and forth they go. I don't know that your preparation for the Eagles-Vikings, do you see as much offensive fireworks from these two teams?
You know what? I want to believe that there's enough there in terms of skill position depth and offensive line fixes to the point where we may finally see a little bit of offense today. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case or on Sunday, but I'm not sure if that's going to be the case. But I feel like, all right, let's see. Maybe Minnesota figured out its center issues. Maybe Mailata can get a little bit of help for Philadelphia on the left side because it feels like Brett Toth needs to be a little bit sharper than we've seen. Maybe Saquon Barkley can take advantage of the interior rather than try to bounce stuff outside where I think Minnesota's a little bit better defensively. Maybe we'll see some separation from these receivers, whether it's A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith or Jefferson and Addison from Minnesota. I think there's enough there to see it. I don't know if we're going to see it on Sunday, but I feel like there's enough there to the point where there is enough to see some offense finally. I would like to see some offense, certainly, between these two teams that have at times looked a little bit sluggish the last couple of weeks.
So when you have your pre-show meeting and get the opportunity, if you could get a truthful answer from Nick Sirianni about the problems with the Eagles offense, what would you think he would say the real problems are?
I think the left guard is a huge problem right now. And I know we've just mentioned Toth. Not having a consistent presence there like you're used to having with Dickerson.
Yeah.
I think that's really hurt the offensive line, right? Like everybody's asking, what's wrong with Jordan Mailata? Well, when you have a really good guard sitting next to you doing his job where he doesn't need help, where he doesn't need a little bit of additional, movement, and then you got to go back to your side. Like Mailata's given up 3 sacks this year. It's not that bad of a number, all things considered, but for what we expect of him, the type of talent he is, we think that he should have for the most part, a clean slate. Like even Lane Johnson's given up a sack. I think one piece on an offensive line that's been so reliant on consistency, on playability with one another, I think that's really messed a lot of things up. It's affected the pass game. It's affected the run game, certainly. Saquon's getting hit behind the line of scrimmage way more than we saw in the first half last year, really throughout the season last year. I think a lot of that has to do with where it starts. The NFL is just such a domino effect sport, right? Everything begets everything else. So if the offensive line doesn't protect or create the proper space, Saquon Barkley gets held up or Jalen Hurts gets some pressure on him and his passes go wayward. If the offensive line doesn't hold up, now all of a sudden the pass timing gets a little messed up. Maybe A.J. Brown hasn't broken out of his route yet. Maybe Devontae Smith hasn't beaten his defender yet. Maybe Dallas Goedert hasn't sat down in the zone that Jalen Hurts wants him to sit down in. I think this is such a domino effect game, and that I feel like right now is at the core of the Philadelphia problems offensively is what's going on up front, and right now the biggest piece is at that left guard position.
All right, so then I'll ask you this question. Adam Amin, NFL on Fox Sunday. He's got the call, Eagles and Vikings. When you guys go in to kind of do your pre-show planning and you talk about the Eagles, what will you ask as your top the question you want to know the most about Philadelphia's little slide here?
I actually do want to kind of stick up front because I think a lot of people have an idea about some of the issues going on with Jalen Hurts, some of the issues going on with A.J. Brown, some of the issues going on with Barkley on offense. I'm not too concerned about the defense, even though I know there's I think they're going to be a little healthier this week. I think they'll be better at the linebacker position in the middle of the field. I think their depth will make them a little bit better on the edges than they have been. I think the biggest concern with me is how much of this O-line is getting worn down. Because remember this, I know the tush push becomes this big kind of national conversation topic, but I do think there's a physicality involved in this play that doesn't get talked about enough. The success of Philadelphia in these short yardage run situations, whether it's Barkley, whether it's Hurts, in particular Jalen in these short yardage touchdown spots, I feel like the physical toll it takes. Jason Kelsey's talked about this, right? Jason's talked about how much of a physical toll these tush push plays have taken on his body over the years, because it is a rugby scrum, and you're suddenly a 330 pounder trying to get into a low center of gravity position to beat the other 330 pounder across from you, who's also trying to get a low center of gravity position. I wonder what the physical toll is for how this style of play has affected Philadelphia over the last, not just this season, not just the first 6 games, but over the course of the last year plus, the last 3 seasons. Are we starting to see some of that physical play take its toll on what Philadelphia wants to do? And if that is the case, are you just trying to get to the bye week to be able to start implementing some new stuff?
Adam Amin's our guest. He's going to be on the call. You're working with Olsen this week, right? You're up with Davis doing the baseball?
Yeah. So I did that Seattle-Detroit series this past week. And not in Milwaukee. I know you said Milwaukee, but either way, one of those division series. I did the Seattle-Detroit series. Jason Benetti filled in for me, and then now that Joe is on the LCS and World Series, I slot in with Greg for the next few weeks.
So you take a look at Minnesota, and Carson Wentz looks like he could play. Does that change this outlook for this game at all, Wentz and McCarthy, for you guys?
To me, it does. I think if it is Carson Wentz, there's at least some consistency as to what you can look at the last few games since he's taken over as the starter. And yeah, they've had some problems, but also I think he and Justin Jefferson have had a nice connection. I think it's been a little bit sharper, frankly, with Wentz than it has been with J.J. McCarthy those first couple of weeks, and that's understandable, right? Those are the first 2 starts of the kid's NFL career. Wentz has been doing this for a long, long time now. So there's different issues for Minnesota depending on the quarterback. There's also different strengths depending on the quarterback as well. But if Wentz is playing, I expect to see a lot of the same stuff that we've seen the last couple of games. It's kind of the same story that you guys saw in Philly at the end of his career. It was a lot of dancing around in the pocket, trying to get away from pressure, trying to be as elusive as Carson Wentz can be. And I know that wasn't always necessarily a strength, especially in the later years. So you can still get to Wentz, and that's been a problem. When he gets pressured, he's been sacked, but he's also a crafty veteran who's able to maneuver in the pocket. And I remember his early years. I remember calling a Philly-Washington game, probably 2017, and watching Carson Wentz maneuver in the pocket when he was a young quarterback in the NFL. And I thought, wow, this guy can really move. That has obviously taken a deteriorated step these last couple of years. So I think they've got different strengths when Wentz is in versus when McCarthy's in. I think they have different weaknesses when those 2 guys are in. I expect that if it's Wentz, we're going to see a lot of what we've seen the last couple of games before the bye week.
So when you guys get this game and you're looking back, were you surprised to see how not only that the Giants handled Philadelphia, but how they just physically blasted them, it felt like, on that Thursday night? Is that a surprising, when you're looking at that game in preparation for this one?
Especially on the defensive end for Philly, right? Like Gadaboo had all these big-time runs. That's something that I do not expect to see. So that was a little surprising, and I'm sure that's going to be a topic of conversation with Sirianni this weekend as well. Where does that? How does that take a turn? Because that's not something that we're used to seeing. Is it the amount of time that we saw that defense on the field last week too? I know the turnovers have been very, very few for Philly, but it felt like they were on the field for a long time with all these physical run plays. So I am curious to hear what Nick has to say when we talk to him this weekend about the lack of physicality, especially against the Giants team. I should also say, I do think that's a Giants team that looks way better with Jackson Dart, and they feel a little bit energized. And I'm not saying that they're going to win 10 games, but they certainly feel and look like a more competent football team right now with Dart at quarterback.
In the landscape of the NFC right now, which looks very deep. I mean, you got 3, 4, and 2 teams out west. You got the whole North with a winning record. You saw the Cowboys last week, obviously not win, but when they get CD back, that should help them. The Commanders that went to the NFC Championship game. You got Philly in the mix. You got Tampa, who is 5-1. Atlanta looks solid. What does the landscape of the NFC feel like to you through 6?
A little more wide open for sure, and especially when you mentioned what the North is looking like right now. But I also don't want to take away. I was talking to somebody in Philadelphia today, and they were like, "It feels like the sky's falling." I'm like, "I'm sure it feels that way, but let's not forget this is still one of the more talented teams in the NFL. It's still a top 5 team in terms of pure talent. They're still the reigning champions. I do think there's a little bit of hangover from last year, the extra games, the extra snaps, the extra physicality that we've been talking about. I do think there's a little bit of a cumulative effect to what we've seen over the first month and a half in this season for Philly, but they're still one of the more talented teams. So relative to the rest of the NFC, I still think talent-wise they're right up there right now with the Detroits of the world. Tampa Bay is a little banged up on offense, but they've got a pretty talented group. I think the Vikings have questions, but they're still pretty talented. But I'm not looking at anybody other than Philly and Detroit right now in terms of pure on-field. My guys, I think, are better than your guys' talent right now.
Well, that's interesting because I'll tell you, as you mentioned, people are in a panic here. I don't know if the Phillies losing on the same night had anything to do with it, but
I think it did, honestly, man. I don't think you guys are used to this over the last several years where all of this happens at once. I'm sure that's part of it, right? It's got to be.
I'll tell you, it's funny to hear a panic from a team that won, 20 out of 21 games or something like that. And the fact that they lose this game, it'll be 3 straight losses for them, which is unheard of as well. How polarizing is preparing for a game with Jalen Hurts?
Polarizing? I mean, I don't think for me, it's not all that polarizing. I understand offensive minds or people who really love offensive football kind of look at him and go, well, what is he really doing for you? It's not a splash. It's not really the splash. It's more about the intangibles and the physicality. But the guy hasn't turned the ball over, right? You're playing winning football for the most part. Now, I understand wanting to be a little bit more aggressive. I understand they want to have a little bit more trust in what's going on so that they can, start blowing teams out. I get all that, but I still feel like he's doing the right things for the most part. Now, his accuracy leaves something to be desired. Some of the off-target throws have probably been frustrating. Holding on to the football, not being as decisive. Those are things that you have to be better at in general. And I do think we've seen in years past Jalen be much better with that stuff than we've seen him this year. But I don't think he's doing anything in terms of putting the ball in harm's way very often. If this is a possession league and the Eagles are certainly a possession team based on how they run the football or have run the football, in the last year, I don't think he's doing anything wrong, but I understand why people look at him and go, well, this is not good offensive football because it's not really very flashy and it's not particularly explosive right now.
All right, Adam Amin's going to call the game for Fox NFL Sunday, 1 o'clock. You can check that out, of course. And where else you got? You got anything else happening? You going to do any Bulls this weekend?
I'm about to walk into the United Center right now, brother. We got the final Bulls preseason game against Minnesota tonight.
Very cool. All right, well, good stuff there. Appreciate it, man. And we will hear from you on Sunday at 1. Thanks.
Thanks, buddy.
Adam Amin, everybody. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. He's the Bulls play-by-player as well.
Forgot about that.
Yeah, no,
so
does
he's doing 3 majors right now.
He also does college football. Josh, is he still doing college football for Fox?
Sometimes he's on those games, yeah.
Yeah.
Those guys just do not sleep.
That's a life, man.
That is a life. The life. That's and I saw Kirk Herbstreit. He's doing the game tonight in Cincinnati. Then he's going to Athens tomorrow for game day. And he's doing Athens Ole Miss, I think, tomorrow. Or Georgia Ole Miss tomorrow.
I got to tell you, the Herbstreit thing, he needs to pick something.
You think so?
Well, last week he was doing the game day from the plane because they were out in Oregon, and the game he was calling was game did they do last week? But the game day was at Oregon, and the game he was calling was where, Josh? Do you remember?
Philly Giants, right? Thursday night?
No. Well, no, he had done the Thursday game. Then he flew to Oregon to do game day, but the college game that he was doing Saturday night was.
Well, he did Red River.
Texas, Oklahoma,
right.
which was
That's
like
why he had to leave so early because he
he
had to
left
get,
in the middle, and they had him on like StreamYard.
pretty much, yeah.
It was terrible.
It was
I mean, he's
poor
not that
reception.
important. He's not that important. Put it that way. You didn't have to fly him to Eugene, Oregon to have him on there. They could have had him at least hunkered down
At
in-
Red River.
Exactly.
You think maybe he can miss a week? Is it possible to just miss a week?
Yes.
His schedule's too packed.
You can miss a week. Thanks to Adam Amin for jumping on board, especially before you had a game tonight. Bulls and who was it? Timberwolves?
T-Wolves, yep.
Yep. All right, more sports bash. By the way, the Sixers play the Timberwolves tomorrow night. We'll have that. They can't be playing back-to-back. It's not a Timberwolves. It's not who they're playing. You already messed up with me once.
I screwed you on that Brewers.
Damn it.
It was Detroit.
More sports bash coming up. All right, don't forget Steelers and Bengals tonight. It's Steelers minus 5.5 over under 42.5. You know, the under is 17-3 in a game where Joe Flacco is a home underdog, including 2-0 this season.
I guess so, when he's playing with the Browns and the Bengals.
The Steelers have covered 4 straight times against the Bengals. They are 5.5-point favorites on the road, and they are 24-11-1 against the spread against the Bengals under Mike Tomlin. They've covered 3 straight. Do what you want with that. Tomorrow, Mike McGarry was up at the press conferences today. We'll get his reaction on that. Plus, Sal Paolantonio, our outside view, will be former Minnesota Viking offensive tackle, All-Pro Bryant McKinney. Good show for you on Friday. Great show today, everybody. Thanks for chiming in. Text board. We'll talk to you tomorrow right here on the Sports Bash. Thanks to everybody at Chickies and Pete's.